Self-examination. Oh, oh. Show us ourselves, Father. Show us our faithfulness. Show us that we covered or we jealous, been ungrateful kids. Show us ourselves, Father. Slothful or laziness. We really at the end. Clean your garment up. Can't play with this. Show us ourselves. Do we show love where your neighbor is? Get up off that bed. All that filthiness can't lay with it. Trust up in his word. Say your soul when you obeying it. Show us ourselves, Father. Show us our selfness. Expose every idol in our heart. We ain't shelving it. Stripping out the hand of a sinner. We ain't helping it. Abba now approve us. Hold our steps. Don't want to move unless you move us. Measure our hearts and then walk you the ruler. Show us ourselves, Father. Show us our gluttony. I can really love him and feel good when he cut me. Created me a clean heart. The cup really stuck with me. Grateful for the Savior. I'ma put my trust in thee. Do we really feel all his pain and his suffering? Angel visitation, every bone he was crushing me. Show us ourselves, Father. Show us when we ugly. Show us about this pride, about this lust and what you want from me. Show us if we follow how we feel without your will. I ready to get cut now, then missing that holy heel. Abba, don't take my ears, don't wanna be holy feel. Abba, I wanna hear from your throne. I boldly show you the way you supposed to be, that holy mountain waiting. Righteousness is springing forth, we teach it to the nations. We gon' blow the trumpet, know he coming, being patient. Wanna do it right up in your eyes. Did that self-examination. Are we ready for the king coming? Shelly find faith up in the earth. We ain't seen nothing. Players coming, bars coming, news coming, world war. The world out of order, really look at where this world going. The days of Noah, let this living water lift you up, these days is colder. We on his ark, we got the Lord the Father taking over. Psalm 19 and 20, Abba take them over. We know you control. The truth is what we fight for. I see my nation getting ready with the white robe. Know your word don't come by, boy, it ain't no typo. Self-examination, help me be the light more. Help me be the light. Did that self-examination. Self-examination, self-examination.
All right, Shabbat Shalom, Mishpaha. I pray everybody is doing well today. So we're going to be going over Torah portion, and it's Vayechi, and he lived. And it's going to be Genesis 47, starting from verse 28, all the way to chapter 50. So we'll be completing Genesis today. And then only one chapter in Jubilees, 46. And it's rather interesting because Jubilees will cover some details that Genesis doesn't, and vice versa. So very fascinating. And then we are going to go over, well, my write-up I did about the Lashon Hara as well. Awesome. Lisa and Marissa got to meet in person. That's amazing.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're here. The babies are sleeping, so we have to be quiet right now.
Yes, leave them asleep.
Yes, never wake a sleeping baby.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Praise Yahuah.
A blessed day for sure.
I love it. That's awesome. It's always good to fellowship in person. So let's see. We said Shabbat Shalom to Lisa and Marissa. And we got Sophia and John. Shabbat Shalom, Mishpaha.
Shabbat Shalom.
And then we got Sister Heidi. Shabbat Shalom. Good to see you, sister. And Sister Jermaine. Shabbat Shalom. Good to see you here as always. Probably not bright but early for you there, huh? And then we got Pacey family, the whole Pacey house. Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha, including Sister Kelly. And we got Brother Jacob. Shabbat Shalom. And Sister Kayleen. Shabbat Shalom, sister. And Sister Esme. Shabbat Shalom. And Brother Kelly. Shabbat Shalom. Good to see you here, brother. And then we got Sister Tracy. Shabbat Shalom. And Brother Lachlan. Shabbat Shalom. And we got Brother Bobby. Shabbat Shalom. Good to see you all here. Glad you all can make it. Oh, we got Sister Andrea. Shabbat Shalom. Perfect timing. Love it. Let's see. Catching up on chat here 1 second. Oh, interesting there, Brother Greg. So, yeah, let's begin. We will begin in, Genesis chapter 48. Where's the screen at? Oh, here it is. So, sorry, Genesis 47, beginning in verse 28. And before I begin, I wanted to say a prayer, and then we'll get right into it. Father Abba Yahuah, we come to you in prayer to ask for your guidance and your blessings as we read and study through your word. Please help us to discern your truth from the truth that we have been told all of our lives, and that truth has not been very truthful. And I wanted to thank you for this fellowship, and also thank you for your Kodesh Day, the Shabbat day of rest. It's so wonderful to come together and rest and just have that day off from everything, because many of us do really need it each and every day. I also wanted to pray for those who are struggling through different trials or tribulations, sicknesses, stresses, burdens, no matter what it is. We all need your help, and we need your strength to be able to endure to the end, because without you, none of us are anything, Father. And I pray to you in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, and let it be so. Hey, Shabbat Shalom, Greg. Good to see you. All right. Let's see. Usually Sumi and Brandon are here to help read, but I don't see them here right now. I pray everything's okay with them. So we'll begin here. So the Torah portion, again, starting in Genesis chapter 47 and continuing in verse 28. And so before this, we see that, Yisrael, they dwelt in Mitzrayim because Joseph invited his family. That's where they got their place in Goshen. And they were very blessed, Barakoth, and they bore fruit and increased exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Mitzrayim 17 years. So the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. And the time for Yisrael to die drew near. And he called his son Joseph and said to him, Now if I have found favor in your eyes, please put out your hand under my thigh, and show kindness and truth to me. Please do not bury me in Mitzrayim. Hey, Shabbat Shalom, Sherry. So we see a couple things here, really. So, putting the hand under or on the thighs was, it was a thing that showed you guys were close, like true friendship or mishpacha, family as well. It was something, special. And we see it written about a lot in Scripture. But he was also saying, don't bury me there in Egypt. He wanted he wanted to be buried with his fathers, where all the rest were buried. And when you read through the Testament of the 12 patriarchs, it shows each and every one of them were also buried there as well, in that same cave, Machpelah, where Abraham. All right, let me continue. So verse 30, but I shall lie with my fathers, and you shall take me up out of Mitzrayim and bury me in their burial place. And he said, I do as you have said. And he said, swear to me. And he swore to him. And Israel bowed himself on the head of the bed. Chapter 48. And after these events it came to be that it was said to Joseph, see, your father is sick. And he took with him his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Jacob was told, see, your son Joseph is coming to you. And Israel strengthened himself and sat up on the bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai appeared to me at Luz, in the land of Canaan, and barak me, and said to me, see, I am making you bear fruit, and shall increase you, and make of you an assembly of people, and give this land to your seed after you as an everlasting possession. And now your 2 sons Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Mitzrayim, before I came to you in Mitzrayim, are mine. As Reuben and Shimon, they are mine. So we see Ephraim and Manasseh were both adopted, grafted into Israel. They were claimed by Israel as his. They are his, meaning they were grafted in. And we see them continue as tribes going forward. Pretty remarkable. Just shows, all can be grafted into Israel if we turn and repent and we follow what's written in his word. Your offspring who you shall bring forth after them are yours, and let them be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. And when I came from Padan, Rachel died beside me in the land of Canaan on the way, when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath. And I buried her on the way to Ephrath, that is, Bethlehem. And Yisrael saw Joseph's sons, and said, who are these? And Joseph said to his father, they are my sons, who Elohim has given me in this place. And he said, please bring them to me, and let me barak them. So they're getting the blessings of Israel. And the eyes of Israel were dim with age, and he was unable to see. And he drew them near him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, I had not thought to see your face, but see, Elohim has also shown me your seed. So Joseph brought them from between his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near him. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, consciously directing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. Yep, and there was a reason he was doing this. And it was because Yahuah was allowing it. Because Ephraim was the firstborn in the Ruach. Not physically firstborn, but he has a very important role. And we've gone over Ephraim a lot, I know in the past, especially Ephraim Awakening. Those of you who know Rab's Akiba know all about that. But specifically Ephraim Awakening in the little season, because we know that that doesn't happen until the time of Jacob's trouble. So very interesting stuff. But let me continue. Yeah, I miss him as well. He helped to wake me up, honestly. He was a big stepping stone. Anyways, let me continue. Yeah, he is greatly missed for sure. I used to attend his Shabbat fellowships every single Shabbat. I was there. But anyways, let's continue. Good memories. And he barak Yosef and said, the Elohim before whom my fathers Abraham and Yitzhak walked, the Elohim who has fed me all my life long to this day, the messenger who has redeemed me from all evil, barak the use, and let my name be called upon them, and let the name of my fathers Abraham and Yitzhak, and let them increase to a multitude in the midst of the earth. So again, we see that confirmation of the grafting in to Israel, being called by his name Israel and his fathers. And not only that, they are getting the blessings of Israel as well. Yeah, I know many of us have fond memories of Skiba. But we see, so the youngest was blessed. They both received a Barakoth, a blessing, but the youngest was given the firstborn's blessing. And when Yosef saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it was evil in his eyes. And he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from the head of Ephraim to the head of Manasseh. No worries, sister. No interruption at all. So we see it was evil in Joseph's own eyes that this was happening, but we're going to see it wasn't evil. And Yosef said to his father, not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also becomes a people, and he also is great. And yet his younger brother is greater than he, and his seed is to become the completeness of the nations. The big one right there too, Ephraim, becoming the completeness of the nations. Goes right along with Ephraim awakening in that season of deception. Anyways, that's not the topic for today, but very important, very big connection there too. Thought Marissa was a lot taller. Hey, me too. We love you, Sister Marissa. As short as you are. Nah. All right. So verse 20, and he barak them on that day, saying, in you Yisrael shall barak, saying, Elohim make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh. And Yisrael said to Yosef, see, I am dying, but Elohim shall be with you and bring you back to the land of your fathers. And I have given you one portion above your brothers, which I took from the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. Genesis 49 here. And Jacob called his sons to gather together, so that I declare to you what is to befall you in the last days. So we see here, this is going to be the testimony of Jacob. So we see it's going to be another testimony to Yahuah, a testimony of what we should be doing as well. So gather together and hear, you sons of Jacob, and listen to Yisrael, your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my power and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of exaltation, and the excellency of power. Unstable as the waters, you do not excel, because you went up to your father's bed. Then you defiled it, and he went up to my couch. So what's really interesting here is if you read the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs, which we mentioned earlier, you'll see that this fits with all of those as well. And it's actually kind of what really sparked a deep dive into the Testament of the 12. But you see that these all line up, and it's really awesome. But Shimon and Levi are brothers, and their weapons are implements of violence. Let my being not enter their council. Let my esteem not be united to their assembly, because they slew a man in their displeasure, and they lamed an ox in pleasure. So some interesting stuff. Shimon and Levi. And because they lamed an ox in pleasure, and slew a man in their displeasure, meaning they were angry and killed somebody, committing murder. And they lamed an ox, thinking it was, something fun to do, which both of these things go against Torah. About being a good steward over your animals, your flocks, your land, your house, your children, your family, all of that. They cut things short, yeah. Oh, I see what you... All right, never mind, Michael. I see what you're saying. But that actually goes with what this can mean as well. They cut things short. Really. So cursed be their displeasure, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. And you, Yehuda, your brothers praise you, and your hand is on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children bow down before you. And Yehuda is a lion's cub. From the prey you have gone up, my son. He bowed down, and he crouched like a lion. And like a lion, who rouses him? And the scepter shall not turn aside from Yehuda, or a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him is the obedience of people. So we see right here, this is a foreshadowing of Yahusha HaMashiach, the Messiah. And we've gone over also in the past how Yahusha is not only from Yehuda and David, but he is also from Levi as well. Very fascinating study, very deep study too. But we see Yehuda, he will get praises because that's from Yahusha right there. And that scepter won't turn aside from him. All of this, nor a lawgiver. Yahusha is the living word, the living Torah. But very fascinating. And here it just, goes more into depth about that as well. So binding his donkey to the vine, and his donkey's colt to the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine, and his robes in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Fascinating. Zebulun dwells at the seashore. He is a haven for ships, and his border is unto Zidion. Zidion. Issachar is a strong donkey lying down between two burdens. And he saw that a resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant, and he inclined his shoulder to bear a burden, and became a subject to slave labor. And Dan righteously rules his people as one of the tribes of Israel. But Dan is a serpent by the way, an adder by the path, that bites the horse's heels, so that its rider falls backwards. I have waited for your deliverance, O Yahuah. So we see, that Gad does fall, not Gad, Dan does fall by the way, causes people to fall backwards. Gad, a raiding band raids him, but he raids its heel. Bread from Asher is rich, and he gives delicacies of a sovereign. Naphtali is a deer let loose, and he gives words of elegance. Yosef is an offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree, by a fountain, and his branches run over a wall. And the archers have bitterly grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. But his bow remained in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty one of Yaakov. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Again, another reference and foreshadowing to HaMashiach. He is the cornerstone, the foundation stone. So the stone of Israel, from the El of your father, who helps you, and by El Shaddai, who barak you, with Barakoth of the Shamayim above, Barakoth of the deep that lies beneath, and Barakoth of the breast of the womb. The Barakoth of your father have excelled the Barakoth of my ancestors, up to the limit of the everlasting hills. They are on the head of Yosef, and on the crown of the head of him who is separated from his brothers. Benjamin is a wolf that tears. In the morning he eats prey, and at night he divides the spoil. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is what their father spoke to them. And he baraked them, and he baraked each one according to his own barakah. And he commanded them, and said to them, I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite as a possession for a burial site. And there they buried Abraham and Sarah, his wife, and they buried Yitzhak and Rivkah, his wife, and there I buried Leah. The field purchased, and the cave which is in it, from the sons of Heth. And when Jacob ended commanding his sons, he drew his feet up into the bed, and breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. So yeah, there we see the testimony of Jacob here, Genesis chapter 49, and all the Barakoth, the blessings he gave to all his sons. Some were better than others, but that's what the will of Yahuah, that's how it went. He already knew things. He knew how they were going to play out. And as we read through scriptures more, we see all that. And so the last chapter here in Genesis, and then interestingly enough, we only have one chapter in Jubilees, and it's kind of going to cover this Torah portion and a little bit of the next one that we're going to get into. Hey, Brandon and Sumi, Shabbat Shalom, Mishpaha. Actually, perfect timing. Would you like to read Genesis chapter 50? Yeah, no worries. It's all good. The children always seem to gather around you guys. And also Shabbat Shalom, Brother Michael. We heard you there echoing for a moment. But yeah, Sumi or Brandon, if either of you would like to read Genesis chapter 50 here. And then we're just going to be reading Jubilees chapter 46 afterwards. And we're going to see that, well, Genesis covers a lot that Jubilees doesn't, but Jubilees will cover a lot that Genesis doesn't. And it will cover actually about how the king of Mitzrayim, or the sovereign of Mitzrayim, died, how he died, and how this, sovereign of Mitzrayim that didn't know Yosef came to power. Which is what we see in the book of Exodus. So that's how it's going to get into a little bit of our next week's Torah portion, but it's okay. No worries, brother. Having a hard time with the mic? I'm just going to take a sip of some water here, and then I can read, or if anybody else would like to read as well, if you're not able to get your mic. Oh, wait, there you are. I think so.
Yeah, my mic was jacked up, so yeah, it's all fixed. We're good. Hold on, I got to get to where we're at on Scripture.
No worries.
Genesis what?
Chapter 50.
Genesis chapter 50. All right.
Coming in loud and clear.
Gotcha. 50 verse 1?
Yeah.
All right. I'm ready when you are, brother.
I'll go ahead. Go right ahead.
All right, chapter 1, it says, And Joseph fell on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Yisrael, and 40 days were completed for him. For so are completed the days of embalming, and the Mizrites wept for him 70 days. And when the days of weeping for him were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found favor in your eyes, please speak in the hearing of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, See, I am dying, bury me in my grave, which I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. And now please let me go up and bury my father in return. And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury your father, as he had made you swear. And Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Mitzrayim, and all the house of Joseph and his brothers and his father's house. Only their little ones and their flocks and their herds they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, and they lamented there with a great and very heavy lamentation. And he observed 7 days of mourning for his father. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Hadad, They said, "This is a grievous mourning for the Mitzrites. That is why its name was called Abel Mitzrayim, which is beyond the Jordan or the Jordan. And his sons did to him as he had commanded them. For his sons brought him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, before Mamre, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron the Hittite as property for a burial site. And after he had buried his father, Joseph returned to Mitzrayim, he and his brothers and all who went up with him to bury his father. And when Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "What if Joseph hates us and pays us back all the evil which we did to him?" And they sent word to Joseph, saying, "Before your father died, he commanded, saying, 'This is what you are to say. Joseph, I begged you, please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. And now please forgive the transgression of the servants of Elohim of your father.' And Joseph wept, and then they spoke to him. And his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, 'See, we are your servants.' And Joseph said to them, 'Do not fear, for I am in the place of Elohim. And you intended evil against me, but Elohim intended it for good, in order to do it as it is this day, to keep a great many people alive. And now do not fear, I provide for you and your little ones.' So he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. And Joseph dwelt in Mitzrayim, he and his father's household. And Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the third generation. The children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were also brought up on Joseph's knees. And Joseph said to his brothers, 'I am dying, but Elohim shall certainly visit you and bring you out of this land to the land of which he swore to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Yaakov.' And Joseph made the children of Israel swear, saying, 'Elohim shall certainly visit you, and you shall bring up my bones from here.' And Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was placed in a coffin in Mitzrayim."
Thank you, brother. Awesome. And so we see, well, the promise was made to go to the land that was promised to Abraham and his seed, which they were. And we see Jacob and also Joseph wanting to be buried, not in Mitzrayim, but in the same caves that his fathers were buried in. So we see the end of Genesis here, and then it's going to get into Exodus next. But we see they were still in Mitzrayim at this time. We see this self-reflection, not only of, well, the 11 other tribes because of what they did to Joseph, but we see the forgiveness that Joseph showed them and said, no, you may have intended to do what you did for evil, but Yahuah, it was done for his purpose, his good. And he even told them, do not fear. And he asked, for am I in the place of Elohim? Because no, he's saying he's not Yahuah, but he is forgiving them and he's helping them out. He was also a blessing to Mitzrayim, because all of Mitzrayim was following Yahuah at this time. And then the Exodus gets into, how the Pharaoh rose up that didn't know Joseph. That's kind of what Jubilees is going to get into here. And it's just chapter 46 of Jubilees, because after that it goes even more into the Exodus, but it's only 16 verses, so I debated whether on reading this, for this Torah portion or next, but I was like, well, we have to have Jubilees included, even though, it kind of blends into this one and the next. So we'll just go for it. All right, Jubilees, chapter 46. And it came to be that after Jacob died, the children of Israel multiplied in the land of Mitzrayim, and they became a great nation, and they were of one accord in heart, so that brother loved brother, and every man helped his brother. And they increased abundantly and multiplied exceedingly, 10 weeks of years, all the days of the life of Joseph. So this just goes to show they were helping each other. All of Mitzrayim became a great nation because of all of Israel. And there was no adversary, nor any evil all the days of the life of Joseph, which he lived after his father Jacob. For all the Mitzrites honored the children of Israel all the days of the life of Joseph. And Joseph died, being 110 years old. He lived 17 years in the land of Canaan, and 10 years he was a servant, and 3 years in prison. And 80 years he was under the sovereign, ruling all the land of Mitzrayim for 80 years. But we also see that Egypt honored all the children of Israel. That's how they became blessed. That's how there was no adversary, because they were following Yahuah. They were protected by Yahuah. Had they done the same in the Exodus account, the same thing would have happened there. They would have been protected. They wouldn't have had to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. But they disobeyed. All right, verse 4. And he died, and all his brothers, and all that generation. And he commanded the children of Israel before he died, that they should carry his bones with them, when they went out from the land of Mitzrayim. And he made them swear regarding his bones, for he knew that the Mitzrites would not again take and bury him in the land of Canaan. For Macamaran, sovereign of Canaan, while dwelling in the land of Ashur, fought in the valley with the sovereign of Mitzrayim, and slew him there, and pursued after the Mitzrites to the gates of Hermon. So we see why this sovereign of Mitzrayim, the Pharaoh of Egypt, is most probably know him as. So we see why he died, because he was in a fight with the sovereign of Canaan, or the king over Canaan. And he even names him. This is how that sovereign in Egypt that rose up that did not know Joseph. So they pursued after the Mitzrites to the gates of Hermon. But he was not able to enter, for another, a new sovereign, had become sovereign of the Mitzrayim, and he was stronger than he. And he returned to the land of Canaan, and the gates of Mitzrayim were closed, and none went out, and none came into Mitzrayim. And Joseph died in the 46th Yobel, in the 6th week, in the 2nd year, and they buried him in the land of Mitzrayim, and his brothers died after him. And the sovereigns of Mitzrayim went out to battle with the sovereigns of Canaan in the 47th Yobel, in the 2nd week, in the 2nd year. And the children of Israel brought out all the bones of the bones of the children of Jacob, except the bones of Joseph. And they buried them in the field, in the cave of Machpelah, in the mountain. And the majority returned to Mitzrayim, but a few of them remained in the mountains of Hebron, and Amram your father remained with them. And the sovereign of Canaan was victorious over the sovereign of Mitzrayim, and he closed the gates of Mitzrayim. And he devised an evil plan against the children of Israel, of afflicting them, And he said to the people of Mitzrayim, See, the people of the children of Israel have increased and multiplied more than we. Come, and let us deal wisely with them, before they become too many. And let us afflict them with slavery, before battle comes upon us, and before they also fight against us. Maybe they shall join themselves with our enemies, and go up out of our land, for their hearts and faces are towards the land of Canaan. And when we get into Exodus, we'll see that this, well, it says the same thing as in Exodus. We might have to actually just read this again in our next Torah portion as well. And he appointed over them slave masters to afflict them with slavery, and they built strong cities for Pharaoh, Pithom and Ramses, and they built all the walls and all the fortifications which had fallen in the cities of Mitzrayim. And they made them serve with harshness, and the more they dealt evilly with them, the more they increased and multiplied. And again, we just see the blessings that come, even when they were being persecuted. They were just being blessed still by Yahuah because they were increasing and multiplying. And this new sovereign of Egypt was afraid of that. They were afraid of all of Israel basically rebelling and turning on Egypt. Which, had they just remained how it was before when Joseph was there, it would have been all good. But we see this is where they enslaved Israel. So verse 15, that's a lot of photos there, Sumi. Yes, persecution brings strength. Absolutely. And we see Yahusha HaMashiach endured persecution, a lot of it. And he was sin-free. He endured it for our sins. So it just brings strength, and that's exactly what it is. If you're not being persecuted, you might not be on the right path. All right. Verse 15. And they made them serve with harshness, and the more they dwelt evilly with them, the more they increased and multiplied. And the people of Mitzrayim loathed the children of Israel. And so we see it didn't go into a lot of detail about Ephraim and Manasseh here, but it does go into more detail about, well, the beginning of Exodus, which in our next Torah portion, we'll probably definitely have to just reread this, recap it. And it is really interesting because, you know, the last chapter we read here in Jubilees, it was lining right up with exactly what we read in Genesis. But then Genesis goes into Ephraim and Manasseh, whereas Jubilees goes into more of what happened with Mitzrayim and what happened on that aspect, where Genesis doesn't go into detail about. Yeah, I love how others are getting to meet others in person. Yeah, absolutely. Pretty excited for Shabuot, not Shabuot. Why can't I think of the name? Sukkot. Sorry. Sukkot's going to be amazing. And by the way, Shabbat Shalom, Sister Miranda, and Tabitha, and Sumi.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Jennifer too. Shabbat Shalom, sister. Glad y'all can make it.
Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see everybody.
Good to see you too, sister. Shabbat Shalom. Which actually, this is going to bring us into our next portion here. And I know we went over a little bit about Lashon Hara. Shared that video. There's that playlist. I was deciding whether or not to watch another video about it. I mean, it's a really good series. But I would encourage everyone to go watch it on their own as well. Study it out. But I did put together a little write-up about it. Really, mostly just walking through a few of the scriptures that describe, the basic categories and what those categories are and what the meaning of Lashon Hara is, translated from the Hebrew. And I did actually drop this in the library tab, the Lashon Hara library tab in our library group. But let's get into this. And the reason I wanted to go into this as well is because a lot of people ask me what Lashon Hara is and what it means. I didn't realize not many people knew what it was or what it all can entail. And to be honest, watching that video series from that brother kind of opened my eyes. And I realized, some things that I didn't even realize were Lashon Hara. So it's a very good series. And they're like 30-minute videos. There's one that's like an hour, but for the most part, they're about 30 minutes. It's a very good series. But I did want to cover just the scriptural aspect of it and its meaning and what all it can entail. And if anybody has anything they would like to add or what have you, feel free. Either type it in chat or open up the mics, whatever. It doesn't matter here. We're all here to learn, and we all need each other. Get some water here, and then I'll begin. All right, so it's Lashon Hara. Oh, wait, hold on. We got some pictures. Oh, that's awesome. Good to see you all there. Looks like a fun trip. I've never been to Pennsylvania. Lisa has invited me, though. All right. So, Lashon Hara. And I have here Zephaniah 3:13. The remnant of Israel shall do no unrighteousness and speak no falsehood, nor is a tongue of deceit found in their mouth. For they shall feed their flocks and lie down, with none to frighten them. So Lashon Hara, which translates to the evil tongue in the Hebrew, it refers to speech or action that is negative or harmful about a person, even if the statements made are true. The type of speech that can damage a person's reputation, their emotional well-being, or even their spiritual walk. So this is from the Strong's Concordance, and it's H3956, Lashon, meaning tongue, language, or speech. And then we can see the different definitions that is used for it in the KJV. But the main definition for it is tongue, language, tongues, bay, bar, languages, speech. A bay or a bar, I don't know. That very interesting definitions, but moving on. So we have H7451, which is Ra, which is evil, bad, wicked, harmful, or unpleasant. And notice the spelling of that as well. Ra.
Sun gets hot quick, don't it?
Oh.
Baby, you're
Simi, what you got going on? Push mute. Something happened. All right. Anyways, did you want to say something to me or no? It's all good. No worries. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no worries. All right. No worries. So anyways, Ra, meaning bad, evil, wicked. We also know that goes with the Egyptian god Ra, things like that. And it's Hara, Lashon Hara, because the evil, Ha meaning the. And then, of course, all the different definitions of it here. Adversity, affliction, bad, calamity, distress, evil. Read the prayer of Menashe. No, that's a good one, actually. But anyways, no coincidence that it's Ra, as in, that Egyptian sun god. But let me continue. So the Torah explicitly prohibits such speech and is mentioned several times throughout the scripture as sinful. The good man brings forth what is good out of the good treasure of his heart, and the wicked man brings forth what is wicked out of the wicked treasure of his heart. For out of the overflow of his heart, his mouth speaks. So this is Luke 6:45. What it's saying here is, what is on our hearts, what's truly on our hearts is usually spoken by our mouths. We're known by our fruits. And it's always a matter of our hearts. And we should consider what is on our hearts that could cause Lashon Hara. And maybe we don't even realize that we're committing Lashon Hara. It can be slander, gossip, to over-exaggerate something, to make something seem more truer than it is. It can be about passive-aggressive speaking, to scorn or to ridicule others, to gain flattery or seeking validation of others. All these different things. And the same letters also describe friend or neighbor for a wicked one. Wow, interesting, Natalie. Very interesting. Almost pronounced the same except Ray versus Ra. But it's the same Hebrew. Hold on, let me scroll up. Yeah. The same spelling. Just a different, quote unquote vowel point. Interesting. It's one of those context is key. Just like with Pesach or Passover, which is what we found going over that, what was it, a week or two ago? Yeah, interesting. It's truly revealing to actually look at the Hebrew words. No, it really is. I would agree. Thank you for pointing that out. That's actually very fascinating. All right, so committing Lashon Hara can be easy to do unknowingly and has unfortunately led to a lot of hate and division in the body. It can also affect someone emotionally or mentally and can discourage them from making future friends or having future relationships. It can destroy somebody's trust, and then You know, I know many of us have been through that, and then you just don't trust anybody, and it takes a lot to, you know, get through that. We can unknowingly, even knowingly, cause that by committing Lashon Hara. Yeah, definitely something there in that word, Sister Natalie. I agree. So the worst part is it can cause Yahuah to hide his face from us. And here's how we can identify what Lashon Hara is and the scriptures explaining. So really it's about, you know, self-reflection. We always need to first self-reflect on ourselves. And that's why actually the song chosen today was really good for this topic. And we see the self-reflection in the Torah portion as well, because all the 11 brothers, they were self-reflecting on their actions and had repented of it and had admitted of their wrongdoings. But, so one of the categories, we have slander or defamation. Let all bitterness and wrath and displeasure and uproar and slander be put away from you, along with all evil. So it categorizes all this into just evil, bad. And that's Ephesians 4:31. So slander, defamation, things like that. I'm sure we all know what that is, but this can also include things that are true, but are being used to, you know, persecute somebody or give them a bad name, things like that. So there's a difference between, you know, like exposing evil versus, you know, gossip and slander, speaking something that's true, but just to discredit or hurt somebody. And then it really goes with false accusations or false witnesses. And of course, this can include a plethora of things as well, you know, including lies or tale-bearing. I mean, these all really go into each other here. But we have Jude 1:9. But Michael, the chief messenger, in contending with the devil, when he disputed about the body of Moshe, presumed not to bring against him a blasphemous accusation, but said, Yahuah rebuke you. So we see here Michael, one of the archangels, setting an example for us to follow by not even bringing a blasphemous accusation against Hasatan, even though there was every right to, because of all the blasphemous things that Hasatan was doing. But he didn't. He just said, Yahuah rebuke you. And this goes into tale-bearing and gossiping. Moreover, they learn to be idle, going about from house to house. Not only idle, but also gossips and busybodies, speaking what is improper. So basically, going around like, oh, did you hear about this? Or, oh, did you hear about that? Or things like that. And this is 1 Timothy 5:13. And there are many verses to support all these different, basically, topics here. These are just one of many verses that support all of this. And of course, leads us right into rumor mongering, spreading rumors, things like that. So he who goes about as a slanderer reveals secrets. Therefore, do not associate with him who speaks smoothly with his lips. Proverbs 20:19. So revealing secrets is also known as being a slanderer. Again, this can go with, oh, did you hear about this? To, you know, discredit or slander somebody else. You know, revealing secrets instead of going to the person privately, things like that. And then this will lead into ridicule and insults, which is Proverbs 9, verses 7 through 8. He who reproves a scoffer gets shame for himself, and he who rebukes a wicked one gets himself a blemish. Do not reprove a scoffer unless he hate you. Reprove a wise one, and he loves you. So this is just showing that there's a difference between reproving and ridiculing or causing insults, things like that. You know, we should all know name calling and things like that, of course, is an insult. We should definitely avoid name calling, ridiculing. This can also go with, you know, our convictions versus what is actual sin. So we can be convicted of one thing, but it's not written that, you know, thou shalt not do this. So we can have different convictions, but this can also work the other way as well. If we know others have a different conviction than we do, we should have respect for one another. And we'll get into that more in a bit here as well. And then this will lead into belittling or shaming. I mean, these can all really be in the same category, but it's just different aspects of it. So he who lacks heart despises his neighbor, but a man of understanding keeps silent. A slanderer is a revealer of secrets, but one with a trustworthy spirit conceals a matter. And this is Proverbs 11, 12, and 13. Again, we see Proverbs 11, the second witness for what we just read in Proverbs 9, because it says the same thing. A slanderer is one who reveals secrets. And this is towards, you know, trying to discredit somebody or in some kind of way put them down, make them feel ashamed, things like that. And this goes into blaming and criticism. So instead of taking accountability, blaming others. And this is going to be Romans 14:1. And receive him who is weak in the belief, not criticizing thoughts. And again, this can also go with more of the conviction versus sin aspect as well. You know, there are newcomers. We're all on different lengths of the same path. So instead of, you know, criticizing others like, oh, you still do this, or oh, you didn't know about that, like, receive them with kindness and just show them like, hey, did you know about this? Like, you know, and of course, blaming instead of taking accountability for our own actions that we've caused, we'll pass it off and be like, well, you know, this person or that person, it's their fault. And, you know, I wouldn't have done this if they wouldn't have done that. Well, we all just need to take accountability sometimes and just own up to our own faults. And, you know, none of us are immune from anything we're going over here, myself included. And then speaking against others negatively, James 3, verses 8 through 10. But no man is able to tame the tongue. It is unruly, evil, filled with deadly poison. With it we barak our Elohim and our Father, and with it we curse men, who have been made in the likeness of Elohim. Out of the same mouth proceed barakah and cursing. My brothers, this should not be so. And yet, you know, we've spoken about this a lot, but our words have power. There's power in our words, and it can be comfort or it can be a sword. It can be evil as well. And we never know what somebody else is going through. This is why it's always good to, you know, have kindness and compassion on one another. And, you know, don't just speak negatively against others, or, if they're new on the walk, or maybe they've been in it a while and they haven't realized something, just don't come at them negatively or come at them sideways. Like the woman at the well. Yahusha didn't come up to her and beat her over the head and say, how dare you commit adultery, like get out of here, and kick at her. No, he was gentle and compassionate and said, go and sin no more. Like, she knew the truth. She admitted to her wrongdoings. He didn't, like I said, he didn't kick her. He didn't slap her across the face, bash her upon the head. None of that. It was just go and sin no more, meaning turn and repent. Sorry, just catching up on chat here. Yeah, I would agree with that, Michael. Back in the day, they didn't have restrictions, and you can ride in like the camp trailers and the beds of trucks and things. But anyways, that's way off topic, but but I would agree. So again, there are power in our words, power in the tongue. We could speak blessings or curses. We shouldn't be speaking both. One or the other. No fence riding. So distortion or crookedness and filthy gain. Some indeed proclaim Mashiach, even from envy and strife, but some also out of pleasure. The former announce Mashiach from selfish ambition, not sincerely. This is Philippians 1:15 and 16. So what it's saying here is there are some who, and this is true even still today, we've sadly seen this in our own fellowship, but there are some who proclaim Mashiach, and it's not out of, because of the pleasure of proclaiming Mashiach and the blessings that they get. No, it's from selfish ambition. What gain will they get by proclaiming to follow Mashiach? How many people can they get to follow them for some kind of, whatever kind of gain it may be? Popularity, money, things like that. And then this goes according with lies as well. And like I said, all these topics really go with one another. It's just diving a little bit deeper into each one. Oh, awesome, Sister Sumi. Thanks for sharing those photographs. And we always seek Yahuah in all matters. Absolutely, Sister Jennifer. Yeah, we seek Yahuah, and self-reflection is always key. It's important to have discernment as well, to know these things, not only so we can recognize it in ourselves, but we can see it in others as well, which is actually, we're going to get into that here too. So, of course, lying lips are an abomination to Yahuah, but those who deal truly are his delight. Proverbs 12:22. I'm sure, I don't have to explain lies. Everybody knows what lying is. And, that includes any kind of being deceptive, which also includes some of the things that we went over above and some of the things we're going to go over below. Just exaggerations, half-truths, things like that. So where exaggeration and half-truths is Exodus 20:16. You do not bear false witness against your neighbor. And that can go with bearing a false witness like we spoke about earlier as well. It can be indulging in events that played out or happened just to make someone look bad or seem more wrong than what they are. To point someone out as like, oh, they're bad, stay away from them. That is bearing a false witness. And this also leads to hypocrisy, which is John 4:20. If someone says, I love Elohim, and hates his brother, he is a liar. For the one not loving his brother, who he has seen, how is he able to love Yahuah, who is not seen? So, yeah, we can be hypocrites without even realizing it. So, if we claim to love Yahuah and follow his ways, but we're hating our brothers and our sisters and our neighbors, we are being a hypocrite. Of course, there's also blatant hypocrisy where, you're telling others to do one thing while you're doing that very same thing that you're telling others not to do. There's just different levels to all these different aspects as well, which really all fall under the one category of Lashon Hara. And then this is a big one as well, teaching for profit. So we know of many, many examples of this. Big name Torah teachers, self-proclaimed Torah teachers. Many of us know about them. We can name drop. I'm not going to be name dropping, but yes, teaching for profit, a huge one. When you see these big teachers, they have, special content that you have to pay for, and, or you have to subscribe to become, a member to get whatever kind of special information that they have, or they hide behind some kind of paywall, or, you have to give a super chat of a certain amount, otherwise your question or comment doesn't get addressed or read or even looked at. Selling notes that you've taken, putting them on a USB stick and selling it for $80 while having these same stores open on your Shabbat day. Yeah, all of these things. It's all for profit, self-gain, all of these things. Donate here, donate there, become a member. Oh, this family in need, donate to me and I'll help this family in need. Like, just beware of all of that. That's all I'm saying. I know many of us can definitely name drop. Quite a few run through my head right now, but I'm not going to name drop. We all know that. We've spoken about many of them in the past. Or super prideful with their understanding, super prideful where their own understanding is the only correct understanding. Yeah, exactly. Shun empty chatter, they will proceed further in unrighteousness. Correct. So yeah, teaching for profits also can be Lashon Hara because it's evil speech. Because now you are selling Yahuwah's word is what it is, which is Proverbs 23:23. Attain the truth and do not sell it. Wisdom and discipline and understanding. And then we also have Matthew 21, verses 12 and 13. And Yahusha went into the Mikdash of Elohim and drove out all those buying and selling in the Mikdash, and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he said to them, it has been written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers. And he's doing this because they were taking advantage of people, who could not afford or who could not find or have their own flocks and things like that. They sold these things out there all for profit, charging a great amount of money for it. They were even doing these things on Shabbat days. And they were doing it not to help the people, but for greedy profit and gain. And then we have unfulfilled vows, breaking oaths, unreliability in one's words, not keeping your word. So this can be a very broad topic here. It can go, many different categories can break out from just this right here. So this is really why Scripture says, don't go making vows and oaths and things like that. Like, you should really avoid doing that. So, but this is going to be James, Jacob 5:12. But above all, my brothers, do not swear, either by the Shamayim or by the earth, or with any other oath, but let your yes be yes, and your no, no, unless you fall into judgment. So this can be, like I said, a lot of different categories. Like, if you're just, this can even happen by mistake, like, oh, I swear I'll pay this back, or like, whatever it may be. Like, we must avoid doing that and just let our yes be yes, our no be no. Don't make oaths, none of that. This can also do with whatever kind of vow or agreement you have with your neighbors regarding property or what have you. Let's say you create a business together and, you have vows, business partner vows basically, or an oath together. Things of that nature, like even in marriages as well, unfulfilled vows. Us breaking vows then can, break these different oaths, all kinds of different things. And then to go with that is also Deuteronomy 23:23. That which is gone from your lips, you shall guard and do. For you voluntarily vowed to Yahuah, your Elohim, what you have promised with your mouth. So we can also make a vow and promise to Yahuah. And this isn't necessarily saying all vows and promises and things like that are bad. But if we're making them just willy-nilly, we're intentionally not keeping them, things like that, it makes us unreliable in our own word. Like, hey, you said you'd do this and you never did. Like, what's up with that? And then blasphemy. Of course, not only blasphemy against Yahuah, but blasphemy against others as well. Because we have an example here in Jacob or James 2:7. Do they not blaspheme that good name by which you are called? So in that whole chapter here, he's speaking about the others who are, they're blasphemers. They're going around name calling, saying they're doing evil works and things like that. That is also blaspheming somebody. Claiming they are doing evil works or deeds or bad deeds, what have you, and they're really not. Just like blasphemy against Yahuah. Saying I'm not even going to say that, but yeah, the same thing against Yahuah, which brings us into profaning the name of Yahuah. And again, this can go off into several categories as well. One, we see that the synagogue of Hasatan does, bringing Yahuwah's name to naught by saying, it's so holy you can't even pronounce it. Never pronounce it. No, that's bringing the name of Yahuwah to naught. Just kind of an example, but we have Exodus 20, verse 7. So do not bring the name of Yahuwah your Elohim to naught. For Yahuwah does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. And that can also entail, our behavior as well. So if we're claiming to follow Yahuwah, we're claiming to follow the way, but we still have behaviors of the world, like we're out there committing adultery or murder or what have you. That will also be bringing his name to naught, because people, they'll see like, oh, he's proclaiming Yahuah, but going and doing all these crazy deeds. Yeah. Yeah, we as humans can always be wrong. Yeah, absolutely, Brother Kelly. And yet, I myself don't have my channel monetized at all or anything. It's been suggested that I do that. I can understand why. And it wouldn't be like hiding behind a paywall necessarily, but I just don't feel real comfortable with it, because I just want to share Yahuah's truth, really. Share for others that they can go and test it for themselves. There's lots of Torah teachers, unfortunately, out there that will hide behind paywalls, and they've got like an ad every 5 minutes going on their channel because they're monetized, and all the above that I mentioned before. You must have a minimum amount of super chat, or your question/comment won't even be looked at. It's profound. But this also goes with being cunning or malicious. So a malicious man disguises himself with his lips and lays up deceit within him. Proverbs 26:24. We also have 2 Corinthians 4:2. We refuse to practice cunning, not walking in craftiness or falsifying the word of Yahuah, but by the manifestation of the truth, recommending ourselves to every human conscience in the sight of Elohim. So being cunning or malicious, I'm sure we all realize what this is. Being malicious, meaning you're putting on a facade, a mask, a front, basically. Or you have flattering lips. You can talk a lot, but don't have a lot to say, basically. You just put it in a big package with a lot of big words, and people, they're like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. Look at all the big words he's using. I've run into that several times, but they really have malicious intent. Or the cunning, falsifying words, being super, super sure that, yeah, what I'm saying is absolutely true, just very, dug in, basically. You're really digging into your own grave. Yeah, no one should ever have to pay for truth. Exactly. I mean, it's literally one of the commands in Scripture. Do not sell the truth. And then flattery, doing things to gain flatter for some kind of self-gain, or to flatter someone else for some kind of gain or promotion or what have you. So this isn't saying, telling somebody, oh, great job, really good job at that. That's not the type of flattery that would be Lashon Hara. The type of flattery that is Lashon Hara is doing it for some kind of gain. Like, if you're doing that and there's some kind of leader or boss or what have you, and you're doing that just to gain their flattery, so that way you can, move your way up the ladder in that way, that's Lashon Hara. Or if you're doing it in a passive-aggressive way, you're flattering, but passive-aggressively, meaning you're really meaning to put them down. But let me read Romans 16:18 real quick. So for such ones do not serve our Adon Yahusha HaMashiach, but their own stomach, and by smooth words and flattering speech they deceive the hearts of the innocent. And yes, this can be flattering to gain a following, things like that. But the passive aggressiveness as well, which Proverbs 6:12 through 14, a man of Belial, a wicked man, walks with a perverse mouth, and winks with his eyes, and shuffles his feet, points with his fingers. Perverseness is in his heart, plotting evil at all times. He sends out strife. So this can go also with the flattery in passive-aggressive style. You know, I know we've kind of joked about it a couple times here in the fellowship, but yeah, winking, yeah, perfect example, winking or saying, you know how some people in the South, they say like, bless your heart, but they're really being passive-aggressive about it, things like that. Just that you're saying one thing, but you're really meaning another. That's the foundation of it, is your words spoken are not being truthful, which again falls into all the above categories we've gone through, and will also fall in the below categories. It's just they all connect at a very deep level, just different aspects of it. And Shabbat Shalom, Brother Angel. I'm a recovering sarcastic person. Hey, me as well. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with humor and things like that. Just not, you know, when it involves somebody else. Yeah, the heart. Yeah, I mean, there's humor and then there's, you know, humor. And then this can also include negative body language. Yeah, being funny is okay. Making fun is not okay. Yeah, there you go. Precisely that. And then, yeah, this will lead into negative body language. So winking with his eye, the plot to perversity. Or sorry, winking with his eye to plot perversity. Moving his lips, he shall bring about evil. And again, that we see it right there. The winking, like, oh yeah, okay, I gotcha, I'll do that. But really, you're plotting something malicious, things like that. You know, again, speaking lips bring about evil. Why are you bringing about evil? Because you're speaking something that you're not meaning. Yep. Let your yes be yes, your no mean no. Speak life, don't speak death. So this all goes with all of that. Like the example I just used before, you know, the people in the South here in the U.S. is that, oh, bless your heart, but they're really meaning it in a evil way. Just an example. And then this will lead us, well, all of this leads into false humility. Now, when you pray, you shall not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in congregations and on the corners of the street, to be seen by men. Truly, I say to you, they have their reward. Matthew 6:5. So again, this is, you know, presenting yourself as humble, you know, like, and again, I see this in a lot of these big Torah teachers that are well known out there. I don't have to name drop. I'm sure everybody knows. But, you know, you try to reveal like what's gone on, all the witnesses, and they're just like, oh, but he's so humble, or they're so humble. I can never imagine them doing that. Well, that falls into this. They are they have a false humility. They put on that persona like they're always humble. But again, we are known by our fruits, and their fruits are revealed. And then this also, again, leads into derogatory statements. I shouldn't say again, but another category of lies, false accusations, things like that. But derogatory statements that are true or untrue. Love your neighbor as yourself. Speak life. Absolutely, yeah. Which is actually Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those loving it eat its fruit. So, are you speaking life? If so, then we are loving the fruit of life. If we're speaking death, we're loving the fruit of death. And derogatory statements, whether this can even include against ourselves and things like that. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Yeah, we read that as well, 100%. But yeah, so all of this also can include ourselves as well. Even the derogatory statements include ourselves and others. You know, if someone confided in you to tell you something, and then you go and use that against them, whether you make it public or you just use it against them, even in private, still, it can be Lashon Hara. It's Shabbat Shalom Kalam. So yeah, whether it's true or untrue, if we're doing it to hurt others, hurt ourselves, things like that, you know, it can be considered Lashon Hara. And then opportunistic scapegoating, or blaming others when the opportunity arrives. And, you know, this can happen knowing or unknowingly as well. But let me read Matthew 12:36 and 37 here. And I say to you that for every idle word men speak, they shall give an account of it in the day of judgment. For by your words you shall be declared righteous, and by your words you shall be declared unrighteous. So again, opportunistic scapegoating, not taking accountability, blaming others. So let's see, something happens like at your work or something, and it ended up, and you know it was your fault, but you haven't said anything because, you know, you're scared for one reason or another. You may need time, but, you know, the boss finds out about it, and you have like a few people that you work with that, you know, the boss is like, it has to be like one of you few people here. But the boss thinks it's somebody else rather than you for one reason or another. And they're like, oh, well, you know, I think it's you. And you knowingly let the blame fall on that person, knowing it's your fault. That is like an example of opportunistic scapegoating. That's like the best example I could think of. I know there are many other different examples, but, you know, basically that context is what it is. You know, the blame seems to somehow point to somebody else, but you know it was your fault, but you let the blame fall to the other person it seems to somehow land on. And then more about the unrighteous self-talk. You know, we cannot condemn ourselves. We can judge ourselves by our works, yes, but we cannot condemn ourselves. Like, you know, oh, I'm just going to be tossed in the lake of fire. You know, that's it for me. You know, only Yahuah can judge. And why? Because it's on our own hearts. The heart is crooked above all and desperately sick. Who shall know it? And that's Jeremiah 17:9. Who shall know it? Yahuah knows our hearts. That's mentioned. And it's always a matter of the hearts. So do we follow after Yahuwah's heart? Knowing that our own hearts are crooked, but we do our best to overcome that and not condemn ourselves over it either. Yeah, it is prideful to think we can judge ourselves. Exactly. Beginning stages of recovering. Have a bartender tongue from time to time. Yeah. And you know what? It happens. And, if you slip up every now and then, that is different from somebody who constantly, is dropping F-bombs or whatever bombs like that. We all slip up every once in a while, and we're not called to be offended. We're called to overcome. So yeah, slip-ups happen. I am not immune to that. And if somehow, one of these words slips, we shouldn't be like, oh my goodness, and then bash the person for it. But if somebody's constantly using it, like in every sentence, every other word, things like that, that's much, much different. Things can go a lot better if we just come into any situation unassuming. Yeah, exactly, Natalie. Assuming the best of others' intentions, and try to see all sides of the tree. Yeah, like Sister Miranda shows in the Little Season presentation. Yeah, the only assuming we should do is the best of others. We shouldn't be assuming the worst. Like, oh boy, they're coming into this like this. I already know what's going on. And then this will include and bring us into ignorance and pride. And Proverbs 11:2, pride comes, then comes shame. But with the humble is wisdom. And I'm sure we all know what ignorance and pride is. Prideful, having that haughty attitude, like, what you say, is always right. It's foundational. You can never be wrong. You already know everything. That point of view, no, you're not going to look into it because, well, you already know everything. We can unknowingly even be prideful as well. And we may even be right about a situation, but in our anger, then sin against someone who has in fact offended us. Yeah, exactly. And then ignorance, it's just, we know what ignorance is. It's being unaware, being stupid, dumb, not knowing, unknowing. There's that saying in the world that says ignorance is bliss. Well, no, it's not. Because there's that verse in Hosea, my people, they die, they're killed for a lack of knowledge, meaning they're ignorant. They're killed because of their own ignorance. So yes, there may be some things we may not understand, we may not have come to yet. We don't understand. That's not the ignorance I'm speaking about. The ignorance is knowing you're ignorant and just, making that claim like, oh, ignorance is bliss. Not even willing to look into it. Just like you've heard about it. You're not willing to look into it. You would rather remain ignorant. And pride manifests in so many ways. It really does. Ignorant can also mean, what we spoke about earlier, just saying everything you say is absolutely right. You already know everything. You're never going to change your point of view. no matter what scriptures you're shown, what anybody says, what evidence there is, that is also ignorance. And then, so I read Proverbs 11:2. All right, so being presumptuous, presuming things, assuming things. For I shall not presume to speak of anything except what Mashiach has worked out through me, in word and deed, to make the nations, the Gentiles, obedient. Romans 15:18. Yeah. Just like a Saturday only Shabbat. A lot of those people have a lot of pride because, they're unmoving. But then it can be prideful to, go at them with like, oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about and things like that. So yeah, not to presume things, also falling into the category of assumptions. Don't just presume or assume somebody is going to do something, has done something, say something, whatever it may be. Only presume the best. Why are we presuming the best? Because it says it right here. Except what Mashiach has worked out through me. What has Mashiach worked out through us? The best. So only presume the best. Why? So the nations, the other people will follow to see the barakoth, the blessings, and then be obedient to Yahuah. And of course, unrighteous rebukes. Proverbs 27:6, the wounds of a friend are true, but the kisses of an enemy are profuse. So not only is this a foreshadow of, the kiss Judas gave Yahusha, but it's true of those who they claim to be your friends or family, things like that. But they kiss you in front of others, but, come at you sideways unrighteously with unrighteous rebukes. Again, this can fall into the conviction versus sin category as well. Perhaps one person is convicted of one thing, another person isn't convicted of that same thing. But that person who's convicted of that is going and rebuking the person who's not. That's an unrighteous rebuke. Unrighteous rebuke can be like the example I gave earlier, the woman at the well. So if Hamashiach went up to her and started, beating her over the head, kicking her while she's down, spitting on her and saying, "Get away from me, you terrible sinner. You've sinned." That's an unrighteous rebuke. He showed us how to rebuke righteously. And then this also goes with Ecclesiastes 7:5. It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song of fools. And of course, being a stumbling block to weaken beliefs, just a stumbling block in general. And this is Romans 14:13. Therefore, let us not judge one another any longer, but rather judge this, not to put an obstacle or stumbling block in our brother's way. So we can become stumbling blocks knowingly and unknowingly. And kind of like I mentioned earlier, we don't know what others are going through. So our words can either hurt or help them. And if we hurt them, we can become a stumbling block for them. And our words will be that stumbling block. It can also be, well, in the example here in Romans, it talks about food, different foods and things like that. But it can really be with anything. So if somebody is struggling with overcoming something and, you have a conviction, but they don't, or whatever it may be, but you see them struggling with overcoming something, but, you're doing what they're trying to overcome right in front of them. That can entail a whole plethora of things from, smoking cigarettes to drinking to food to whatever it may be. Even watching sports, video games, whatever it may be. So we can become somebody else's stumbling block by either, doing these things that they're trying to overcome in front of them, or, really judging others, and our words become their stumbling block. And then this will lead into being divisive or quarrelsome. And this also leads into discerning who is being divisive and quarrelsome and who is just genuinely, perhaps asking questions or making statements. Yeah, actually, that's a good one right there. I'm going to read that here at the end. Book of the Nazarene. Very good. Yeah, exactly, Michael. We got to learn to be wrong even when we're right. And it's true because, I experience this with my son Callan sometimes. He's young. He forgets how situations played out. And I'll recall to him how it played out. And he's like, no, that's not what happened. I'm like, actually, yes, it is. I was right there when it happened. And it just continues on with the, nuh-uh, yahuah, nuh-uh. I'm like, okay, no. So, yeah, example of that. Yeah, we all struggle. We all have to overcome things. And that's why I was saying at the beginning, too, it's all about self-reflection as well. Really self-reflection before accusing and assuming and presuming. So being divisive or quarrelsome, it can include different topics even that you would not agree with. Say scriptures isn't super clear on something, and there's different points of view about it. It shouldn't be something to divide over or quarrel about. Debates or, discussing it, that's different. But if you're being divisive and hating others because, they have a different point of view than you, that's not right. And we see because Mark 3:25, and again, there's other witnesses to this, but if a house is divided against itself, that house is unable to stand. And that's why I always say we all need each other. We may disagree about a few things here and there, but all of us can agree on 90% of everything else. So we shouldn't let that 10% divide any of us. Sign of maturity, not needing validation of being right all the time. Yeah, exactly. That goes with the validation we spoke about earlier too. Yeah, and that's the thing with the English language too, Brother Kelly. Is it possible that Lashon is a base for the word lash, as in a lashing out at someone? That's the whole play on words too. So yeah, I would say it is definitely connected to that as well. But yeah, just being divisive or quarrelsome, because you may not agree about some certain small topic, let's not let that divide us. And we see it far too often on Facebook and social media. These small topics, even about how to pronounce a name. It's some say Yahusha, some say Yahushua, some say Yeshua. There's other different ways as well, but I've seen people just arguing and fighting for days and weeks about how to correctly pronounce Messiah's name, and it shouldn't be about that. Or they're hating each other because, oh, you pronounce it Yahushua? How dare you? You're not saved. It's like, well, where in there does it say pronunciation is what's going to save us? Actually, we're all going to get new names, including Yahusha HaMashiach. So, there's all that too. So we shouldn't let these things divide us or cause quarrels. And then undiscerning. So having no discernment. Because, discernment is a foundational thing. We need to have discernment. One, to discern everything we've just gone over above. And two, to have discernment of what scriptures is saying and what is true versus, what, Pastor Porkchop is teaching on a pulpit. But we have Romans 1:31 and 32. And this is speaking about basically the bad fruits. And without discernment, having no discernment is a bad fruit. Covenant breakers, unloving, unforgiving, ruthless, who, though they know the righteousness of Elohim, that those who practice such deserve death, not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. This includes hypocrisy as well, but we can see that not having discernment is actually a bad fruit. If we're unable to discern things, what's going to happen? We're going to go follow any, flattering word of man that they speak. Oh, that tickles my ear, so I'm going to run with that. Unfortunately, we've seen this in the past in our own fellowship here. Unfortunately, with one of our founding members who is no longer with us. No discernment and just, toss about like waves of the sea with every wind of doctrine. So not having discernment is unfruitful. It's actually a foundational thing we should have is discern. Not only to discern and understand what Scripture says, but to discern so we can see behavior not only in ourselves, but know the behavior in others to avoid and stay away from. But you were washed, you were sanctified, you were justified in the name of Yahusha. Exactly. We forget where we came from sometimes. Yeah. I've been there too. I was, a Torah terrorist. I go around bashing and trashing people like, oh, how dare you? If you don't say this or pronounce this way, you're not saved. Or, if you don't use this or that or think this exact way, it's straight to the lake of fire. That's not how I was taught. Yahuah didn't bash and trash me into saying, oh, if you don't use this pronunciation, that's it for you. We all have to remember that we were all there ourselves as well. Lashon, the tongue in Hebrew. Yeah, exactly. It is the tongue in Hebrew, yes. Oh, I think he was making that comparison because Lashon, meaning lashing or lashing out at someone, like in English. I think it connects, even though that's technically not the definition in Hebrew or anything. It's just very interesting how it sounds very similar. Yeah, that comes at the tail end of a long list of sins. And that's the thing too, is none of us are perfect. None of us are sin-free or without sin. We are only made perfect Because when we turn and follow Yahuah, be obedient to him, he will cover up our sins and we will be made perfect. Not because we are perfect. Yeah, hence the term tongue and lashing. Exactly. So we see discernment, a key foundational fruit to have. And then, of course, mocking, scorning, scoffing. I'm sure we all know what this is. This includes, name calling, trashing somebody else. But knowing this first, that mockers shall come in the last days with mocking, walking according to their own lust. And that's Kepha, or 2 Peter 3:3. Then this goes with boasting as well. Thus said Yahuah, let not the wise boast in his wisdom, let not the mighty boast in his might, or let the rich boast in his riches. Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah 9:23. So boasting can be, I know all this, I found all this out, this is what I discovered, I figured this out all by myself. That's what we see, the world do. They're scientists. They're always about, we discovered this, we discovered that. We discovered we live on a spinning ball in a vacuum, things like that. It's all this trust me, bro, we said, like I said, this, that, I figured this out. All that stuff is boasting. The only thing we should be boasting about is in the Barakoth of Yahuah. We should be boasting about Yahuah and giving all praise to Yahuah. Not boasting in ourselves or our knowledge, wisdom, our riches, whatever it may be. It can include going around like, you have no money, you're broke and poor, but look at how much money I got. Yes, exactly. That is it right there, Sister Natalie. Yes, and of course, we always continue to be in Palau or prayer for those who we know have, they have committed Lashon Hara against us, have done hurtful, hateful things towards us, said these things towards us. We just got to be in Palau for them. And yeah, it's really hard and sad to see people fall away. Unfortunately, it's part of the process. Actually, it's in the, so I just put this in the library tab, Lashon Hara. But this is a little write-up that I put together in the last week or two. So again, no boasting, which goes really with everything we've gone over before. This can be pride, making assumptions, presumptions, all kinds of stuff. Everything we've gone over. And of course, we can go over a whole lot more with a whole lot more scriptures, but, as you can see, it's we've only got like 1 or 2 scriptures for each category, and it takes quite a while to go over. But again, I encourage checking out that playlist, which actually, one second, let me get it and I will share it. So here it is. And I'll try to put it on YouTube in the description as well. And awesome. Thank you, Natalie. So there's the playlist in the chat there. It's also in the library. And I'll try to get that link also in the description for YouTube. But very good series. I think it's like 15 parts that brother does. And again, I don't agree with absolutely everything he says. Like, he kind of promotes, rabbinical teachings and things like that, which I do not support at all. But he does mention it, so that's really one of the few things I would, disagree with him about. But everything outside of that, very well done, I believe. And actually, that's the video we watched last Shabbat. Well, one of the videos. We just watched the introduction one. But yeah, I highly encourage everybody to go and check that whole series out and study it out themselves as well. So, the last, definitely not the least, provoking Yahuah. This is one we should greatly avoid, and is in Lashon Hara, because, well, the examples we see in the Exodus, the people were mumbling, groaning, complaining, all these things, crying, oh, why not just let us go back to Mitzrayim? We had it real good there. That is all provoking Yahuah and falls under the evil speech. They were speaking evil against Yahuah by saying his covering, his provision was not enough. They would have rather just stayed in Egypt and in bondage and slavery than to be free following Yahuah. So what happened? They provoked him to anger. And we will read that here in Psalms and Deuteronomy. So Psalm 78:41. And again, they tried El and provoked the Kodesh One of Israel. In Deuteronomy 9:7. So Psalms is speaking about this right here. All the events in Deuteronomy, Exodus. Remember, do not forget how you provoked to wrath Yahuah your Elohim in the wilderness. From the day that you came out of the land of Mitzrayim until you came to this place, you have been rebellious against Yahuah. So again, being rebellious against him, provoking him to wrath, all of these things falls under Lashon Hara, especially against Yahuah. And so for the last few scriptures we're going to read here, and this will be all, but yeah, that'll be all. But I wanted to end it off with some Proverbs and some Book of the Nazarene as well. And first we're going to have Proverbs chapter 8, verses 6 through 9. Listen, for I speak noble words, and the opening of my lips is about straightness. For my mouth speaks truth, and wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are in righteousness, none of them twisted or crooked, all of them plain to him who understands, and straight to those who find knowledge. Very, very well said there, but very well read. And then here we have, sorry, it's not Book of the Nazarene, it's Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, Wisdom, Ben Sirach, all those names it goes by. But this is Ecclesiasticus, or Sirach, chapter 3, verses 7 through 15. And this is one of the verses Micah shared there above. But do not accuse before you have examined the truth. Understand first, and then reprove. Do not answer before you have heard the case, or heard the case. Neither interpret men in the middle of speaking. Do not strive in a matter that does not concern you, and do not sit in judgment with sinners. My son, do not engage in many matters, for if you strive greatly, you shall not be innocent. And if you pursue, you shall not obtain. Neither shall you escape by fleeing. There is one who labors and struggles and hurries, and is so much more behind. And again, there is another that is slow and needs help, lacking skill and full of poverty. Yet the eye of Yahuah looks upon him for good, and raises him up from his humiliation, and lifts his head from misery, so that many see his peace over all this. Prosperity and adversity, life and death, poverty and wealth, come from Yahuah. Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the law, the Torah, are of Yahuah. Love and the way of good works are from him. And again, that was Sirach 3:7-15. And this is really just everything we've gone over, just put together, really beautiful, right here in Sirach. The very definition of Lashon Hara. But thank you very much. I think that's all for that presentation. But we still have, the rest of our fellowship here. So if anybody has questions or comments or anything they would like to add, feel free. I don't mind at all. And if not, no worries. Let's see, who all we got on now? Oh, Brother John, Shabbat Shalom and welcome. Good to see you here. Man, Brother Callum, Shabbat Shalom. Good to see you here.
Shabbat Shalom.
So yeah, there are just a couple things I wanted to go over about Lashon Hara. Some of the things that it can entail. And like I said, watching through that video series helped me to realize myself some things that I didn't even realize were Lashon Hara. And I know, so coming up soon, we are planning to have just a fellowship to cover the calendar recap, just to cover some of the different points. And I know I mentioned it before, but we want to try and do it at least once a month for all the new people, the newcomers, and those who still have questions about it as well. And if you do have questions about the calendar, we have our library group. We have a calendar discussion section there. You can also feel free to ask here in the main fellowship chat as well. And those who are watching online from YouTube and things, if you have questions, of course, you can always comment. And we always try our best to be able to answer those questions through Scripture. So yeah, very soon we will have a calendar recap fellowship. We'll go over all that. We'll try to help answer any questions anybody has then as well. Or if you do have a question, feel free to put it in the other chat. We can try to make sure to address it in our next calendar discussion too. Well, that Brother Lockman, too much coffee will do that. No, I did not say you can hit people with your book. I said you should probably avoid hitting people with your book. What everyone's oldest scripture translations they use for getting back to the original. I use the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Septuagint. Also the Pentateuch as well. That's a good one. And if there's some kind of, what is it, a discrepancy between like the Masoretic and the Septuagint, I will always lean to the side of the Septuagint being true rather than Masoretic. And actually, Sister Germaine, if speaking of Psalms and Sirach, if you're able to do your reading soon, if you're not
Still milking.
busy.
Still milking. Got about another half hour.
Awesome, no worries. And you as well, Sister Sherry, have a Baruch rest of your day. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for showing up here, sister. But by the way, Lachlan, that's pretty good hallelujah scriptures you got there. Pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Might take some time to be able to read the other translations. I don't know how accurate or how that is, but yeah.
So it's in like Paleo Hebrew?
Yeah, it's got English on the far left, and then it's got Yiddish, like modern Hebrew, and then it's got Paleo, and then it's got pictographic.
That's pretty cool, though. So you can see it in all the different translations. Take it right back. Here, I'll read the story of how he figured out the real calendar. That is a long story. Lots of tears. Basically, man, it goes pretty far back. Well, I guess not that far back, maybe like a year or two. Definitely perseverance. So let me see if I can break it down a little bit, because there's a lot. Leaving the group and praying, yes, all kinds of stuff. So it's probably been 2.5 years ago now is when we first, well, at least me, I first heard that, Saturday, not that I first heard that Saturday's not always the Sabbath, because of course, the lunar Sabbatarians, I heard of that, but someone who was following the Zadok calendar was saying this, and I was like, I was perplexed. I'd never heard it before. I was like, no way. Like, wow, really? So basically, I watched and listened to some of his studies, and I first set out, I was like, well, I'm going to prove this wrong. Like, there's no way that this is right. It's got to be wrong, right? And I prayed to Yahuah. I fasted a bit. Yeah, definitely sword fights. But the more I was studying into it, the more I was finding like it's actually more true than it is untrue. And that's where I started seeing all the stuff in the Dead Sea Scrolls about the importance of the spring equinox, how it was marking that date, how in the history you see that Rome observed a similar calendar to what the Pharisees and Sadducees observed with their floating lunar stuff. Finding out all the history of, well, the true history of the sons of Zadok, how, the Seleucid Empire, who were the Greeks, kicked them out because they didn't want to follow the Babylonian calendar they were pushing. This is actually how the Pharisees and Sadducees came about. But really, we all came together it was a whole group of us on the Zadok calendar. We all were on the Zadok calendar. And of course, we had different intercalation methods, and that's what we were trying to figure out. Like, how do we intercalate? Where's the scriptures to intercalate? Where does it show how we do this in an explanation? And of course, there's all the theories that was, oh, well, you do a week every 7 years, or you do a week every 6 years according to this, or there are many different ways. There's even some where they made claims to only do 364 days only in every year. When you study into all that, you see that, well, none of that can possibly be true at all. One, because you don't find intercalation at all in Scripture. Like, you don't add a week, you don't add a month, none of that. It's the same yearly, every single year. And so everybody making claims to add a week every so many years, we were asking them, like, where's the Scripture for this? Like, can you find Scripture for this? Nope, because it doesn't exist. In fact, Jubilees tells us opposite. It's the same from year to year, every single year. Like, we do not shift from this pattern of how the year goes. But nobody can ever prove out through scriptures how to intercalate this week. And, well, that's when I brought up all that stuff. We watched that brother, saw how he was using the equinox basically to divide the years, and had added I think he was calling it a day out of time. And that's where we found Aaron Ryan as well, actually. Remnant of the Light. She was saying the same things. We found her before the other one, but they apparently had some kind of quarrel going on too, because they didn't fully agree. But anyways, so we were looking into that really deeply, and that's where I started finding all that evidence, which I do have in my write-up. I put that all together in my write-up, finding all this evidence. And at first we were doing it one way, like similar to Aaron Ryan. It was actually the same as Aaron Ryan, but we had found it studying it out on our own. And then, because we couldn't figure out the witness of the moon, what exactly it was for, but Sister Marissa was on it since before we started the fellowship. She was looking at all the different luminaries, the moon, the stars, the sun, and she was starting to see this pattern in there. And the pattern not only was disproving the whole, priestly cycles go by, these sliver moon phases, because that's what people like to claim. She was showing that that's wrong, but how, well, the moon is a witness in another way. And that's how she found Dustin Hoffman and them, and he mentioned the lunar stations and things like that. That's where Marissa really looked into the moon more and saw that what was being said there was pretty legit, and it started lining up with what we were seeing and reading in the Dead Sea Scrolls as well. And so we had to change our position on, having a divider day after the last Sabbath of the year, to now knowing, well, the equinox itself is the marker for the divider day, the day out of time, whatever you want to call it, day 365, day 0. Really doesn't have an official name. It's just the day not counted. So it really took all of us coming together and studying this out, testing each other. Because I still remember when I first brought it to Marissa, I was like, yo, check this out. And she was like, well, what about this and that and another thing? And I was like, yeah, I could see that, but check this out. That's how it all got started. And then I originally had made this tip here just to present the calendar and what we found. And during that fellowship, like the very first one, it wasn't even a fellowship really, it was just a presentation. Someone had mentioned, hey, we should do this every week for Shabbat. Because, with this, Shabbat not always being on Saturday, we're going to all need each other. And I was like, wow, that's a really good idea. So ever since then, that's where we started doing it every Shabbat. And for maybe the first, I don't know, the first year was every Shabbat was always all about the calendar, learning new stuff. We'd have people on and, hash it out with them about calendars. We've had quite a few different guests on and things like that. We've had quite a few members come and go, and for various reasons, but really that's how this fellowship started. And then at first it was just like there was really technically no leadership. I mean, yes, I created the group and I was trying to keep peace, but it wasn't like a organized leadership role. So like things were kind of out of control all over the place, and it was starting to cause a lot of confusion. There was people that would come in and purposely cause confusion. So that's where I basically had to step it up and say, okay, no more of this. I gotta take accountability because this is just becoming a lot of confusion. There's really no leadership. So I had to step up, and that's where I stepped up. I appointed the moderators. Of course, I asked them all first. And most, if not all, the moderators have been here since the beginning, really. I know Marissa's a founding member, Miranda. Like they were here since the beginning. I think Natalie too. Natalie was here at first, but then she left. Then she came back. Yeah, Michael's been here for quite some time too, since all the admins have been here since like the first or second week or sometime around there. Yeah, Tabitha was here for a while. All the Pacey family. Yeah, and we know the reason why people left. Well, the person why people left. And again, we pray, we are in Palau for her. But to be honest, without her, this fellowship would not have come together because she did. It was hard pressure, but she pressured me to put all this together and to look deeper into all of this. So, I mean, even the people who have done us wrong have some kind of good purpose in our lives, and they can be a blessing or a miracle. If you need help in a scenario because a sin was committed against you and someone can hurt the body. Yeah. Yeah, Faith and Sumi. Yeah, Sumi and Brandon are still here. Yeah, Faith. She was a really good sister, but yeah, again, she had personal things going on, was unable to be a moderator and things like that. But yeah, we've had quite a few. We're going on like this is fellowship 73. So 120 is going to be or no, not 120. What is it? 20? 120. It's 52, 52. So 104. That will be 2 years exactly. A heck of a long time. So yeah, no, I never expected the fellowship to grow like this, especially when I first started it. I was figuring it was going to be maybe 15 of us, 20 of us, and that's what it would be. Now we got like 245 people. Of course, there are some that are more active than others. There are some who were once active but aren't now because they got off Telegram for one reason or another. But we do have quite a few that, maybe they haven't been on in a while, but they do pop up every now and then, come back on. Yeah, Endure. Hatsumi and Brandon came back as well. So yeah, we've had quite a few brothers and sisters. You know, there's brothers and sisters that are in like Spain and Romania and things like that, that, you know, they listen and follow, but they're not always here for the fellowship. Yeah, we had that messenger group. Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. So, yeah, Katrina started that Facebook messenger group, and then we were all talking about it in there. That's where we decided to put a presentation up where I can like put it on a video, because I had my YouTube channel. So I was like, yeah, I'll put it on my YouTube channel. That's how this all started. Yeah, the messenger group was first. Even though it's no more. Well, that group will still exist, although it has nothing to do about the calendar or the Son of Zadok anymore. So that messenger group has nothing to do with this group any longer, unfortunately. And I was not the owner or the creator of that group. That's why, well, it fell by the wayside. But it's okay, because we got the main fellowship here, so it works out. I can say that, you know, I've learned a lot about refinement and being accepting and caring of others. You know, there has definitely been times where probably all of us in this group has not agreed and have almost wanted to leave for one reason or another. But you know what? We've worked through it. And most of the ones that left have come back. A lot of ones that left came back. And it's just made us stronger, really. And we appreciate you as well, John and Sophia, both of you. Oh, that's an awesome sunrise, Lachlan. And yeah, Jermaine's been there since the beginning too. I remember one of the fellowships was about that, and I was like, yeah, you've been here since day one, since the messenger group too. Yeah, all of that. But I remember because I was like, oh yeah, we were talking about flat Earth and the position of the sun. That's when I learned you were in Australia. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Lisa, you've been here quite some time. I don't think since the very beginning, but pretty close to the beginning. Yeah, you were in the messenger as well. Yeah. We really have grown so much together. That's why we are Mishpacha. And that's why I appreciate each and every one of you so very much. And I know there's many others who have been here since the beginning or close to it as well. And hey, Brother Joe, good to see you here. Glad you can make it.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here too, brother. I got both my grandsons, so they're a little wound up today. But I'm feeding them now, so hopefully they'll be calm so I can listen at least.
They're a blessing. And
yeah, they are.
Sumi and Brandon are having the same dilemma, grandchildren.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to, the end of June, I'll have number 6. Number 6 will be here. So we'll have 3 boys and 3 girls.
Well, congratulations, brother.
I appreciate that.
They're like arrows in your quiver.
That's it, man. I love it.
Beautiful. I'm not there yet. I can probably wait to be there. But at the same time, it's a blessing for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's amazing. I mean, it's definitely the Father. I mean, I am so far ahead of where my brothers. My brothers are younger than me, but one brother's only a year and a half younger than me. But it's just crazy. Just seems like life got going for me and my wife early, and with our kids, and then our kids are grown, and now my kids are having kids, and you know, it is definitely a blessing from y'all.
Absolutely. Love it. Yeah, it's good to see you here, brother. Been enjoying the Anchored to Truth videos as well. The one about the portal.
Oh yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah, my son just got here now with the other grandson.
Oh, you got a full house. Awesome.
Almost. Well, the little girl that's on the way, she's still in the belly, so she's technically here right now with us too. So.
Let me charge you.
I know, buddy. Yeah, I know.
Love it. But yeah, no, good to see you here, brother.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I'm gonna be here listening, and if I can chime in, I will. But I try to get with you guys as much as I can. It's just hard. That's that season of life that I'm in.
Yeah, no worries. I understand. We all go through it for sure. It's hard to keep up.
All right. Well, blessings to everybody, and I don't know how much longer you got to you're signing off, but like I said, I want to pop on here and be a part of as much as I could.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. Yeah, we're just waiting on Jermaine. Well, not waiting on her, but when she's available to do her Psalms and Sirach reading, you might get it after that. Because we all love Jermaine's readings. But yeah, good to have you here, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, much love. And yeah, Natalie has a ladies' fellowship. We also have a brothers' fellowship as well. I know maybe I should probably talk to Micah about it, but we do have a brothers fellowship where we can just chat as brothers and things like that. Same as with sisters. But if you are a brother, Micah has that link if you're interested. I know quite a few of us brothers are already in there. And yeah, lots of people, that's when they came back, Sophia, the second she left. No hopping. Shabbat Shalom, Brother Michael. Glad you can make it. So yeah, it's also the first of 7 Sabbaths for the count to Shavuot. It's day 7 of the Omer count, which I've been posting it daily on Facebook and here in the fellowship as well. And we do have a tab with all the Omer counts and different scriptures and things like that pertaining to it as well. And yeah, lots of other groups, they don't welcome questions, they don't welcome challenges, things like that. You know, we've had all kinds of challenges, all kinds of questions. You know, there's certain points of view that we have definitely proven wrong, and you know, like sliver moons and stuff. If there's some new revelation about, moon sightings, of course we're not going to talk about that because we've proven that stuff's just mumbo jumbo. It's not wrong. or it's not accurate, it is wrong. But we do like challenges because that's what helps us to dig in deeper. That's actually how we got to where we are, all the different challenges. We would have actually never figured out that it's the stars mentioned in the Dead Sea Scrolls that we see from evening to morning if it wasn't for different challenges. Because we thought it was the sun at first, others thought it was the moon, but it was the one everybody left out, the stars, which is verified actually in Jubilees by Abraham viewing the stars from the evening to morning. Exact same phrase. So yeah, we are still learning and growing. Of course, we do not claim to know absolutely everything. We do have the parameters and everything for the calendar. Like we know exactly how it's laid out, how it should be lived out. Do we know the Jubilee year? No, not quite yet. We are still figuring this out. It's very difficult to do because of the lost history and the inaccurate history, all of that we've been told. We're trying to figure out exactly where on the timeline we are, because I know that's an issue too. Are we pre-millennial reign, post-millennial reign? There are all kinds of things we don't have 100%. Like, yes, we know for sure. We can't say that. But we have the calendar itself. And really, that's the connecting factor. Because when you see the importance of the North, how not only important for the calendar, but the timeline, like the timeline we are in, how it's important and connects to the little season, to Mount Zion, and it connects to the very nature of Yahuah himself, like the Fibonacci sequence, cymatics, all of that. And it's all because of different challenges and questions that we've been able to dig deeper into all that. And because we all each have a different piece of that puzzle. So, I'm pretty good with, understanding the scriptures and the Dead Sea Scrolls aspect. Marissa is really good at understanding the luminaries and their witnesses. There's others who are here, like Miranda. She's our season of deception expert. She knows all the different aspects about that. There's others in here for cooking, different recipes, different other aspects of what's in Torah. We all have a different piece of that puzzle is what it is. And we really, truly all do need each other to be able to put that puzzle together. So nobody is more important than anybody else. We're all in this together learning it. And no one is above, being corrected. That kind of goes with, what I was mentioning earlier about a lot of these big Torah teachers. They seem to think they are above any kind of correction. And then even when they're proven wrong, they will continue to push, just false narratives, false witnesses, things like that, just because they don't want to be proven wrong in front of their thousands of followers.
Hey, Jeremy, I wanted to speak on that as well, if that's okay.
Yeah. No, go right ahead, brother.
I think with that also is, and I do agree with you, it could be twofold. It could be a place of pride for them where they don't want to look bad. But it's also a place where, let's say for the larger groups that are out there in Tennessee and different places, that it makes me wonder, and I can't say this for sure that this is what's going on, but I know that it has to factor in, is because if you take the bigger groups that are still mostly following Judaism and mostly following the Hallel calendar and stuff like that, that for them it's almost like they'd rather keep that unity than preach the truth or start to introduce the truth to the group in fear of it would cause displacement or people leaving and for me personally, I mean, I've already experienced that. My group was never gigantic. We maybe had 60 to 100 people at any given point. But when I started talking about the Zadok and started bringing up different aspects of when a day begins and different things, and not pushing on anybody that they have to follow any of it, that's never been my style. The part of that group that want to remain what they call in unity with Brother Judah pretty much decided just to split. And that hurt, because I was like, the Vine's always been a place where it's a safe place. If you got a difference of opinion, that's okay. Just like you said, we all bring something to the table. We all have our own strengths. And just because someone doesn't see something the way you do it first, that's okay. I mean, that's the Ruach's job. It's not my job to continually berate somebody over, what I feel like is right. It's like, if it is a truth, then I just trust the Holy Spirit to take it from there. But I think for these big groups, sometimes I think that's got to be a fear for them. It's like, well, if we, start talking about, looking into the Zadok counter, and I'm not going to mention any specific name, but it's been told to me, and I don't know for sure, that one of the big groups out there, that you cannot even approach that person about the counter whatsoever. It's not a discussion that's going to be had. And so I think there's a little bit of that too in there, where it's a fear of losing people. And y'all had to take me down that road myself, where, literally half the congregation left and to go do their own fellowship because they didn't want anything to do with the Zadok. Even though for that first Sukkot, I rented my space because that particular year, our Sukkot was literally overlapping, like it was almost literally back to back. And so I went ahead and rented out my space for another week, spent the money trying to, promote fellowship, even though they're on a different counter. And then right after that Sukkot, everyone just started slowly going off to the other direction. So, and I had to be okay with it. And I already knew that when y'all presented me with the Zadok, the priestly calendar, and a lot of other topics, that I already knew what was going to happen. I already knew in my spirit it was going to cause people to want to leave, even though, again, I've always made Divine a place where we can all come in fellowship, even if we have different views and we're following different, calendars and stuff like that. But I guess the thing that kind of hurt me, though, was the fact that I gave everyone that grace. I give them that place that they can come to. But when it came to what the Father was leading me as a shepherd to teach, and then they were like, "Oh, well, we can't no longer fellowship with you because of this." I was like, "Okay." So that's it is what it is. But anyway, I just want to share my 2 shekels on that one.
No, thank you. And I've experienced that as well. And yeah, I know I can probably figure out who you're speaking about without mentioning names too.
Yeah.
Because I've heard the same thing, that you can't talk about it, none of that. And
Right.
I believe it is because, they would rather have that unity, which I get it. But, that also kind of makes us lukewarm if we just stay there. We just refuse to look into something because, it's going to break unity. Well, it's not about breaking unity. It's about following the word, really, seeking His truth. And those who are truly in unity will stay. And those who aren't, well, they don't stay, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But that's really a part of it. So, yeah, we're the same here. We don't want people to feel uncomfortable or unwelcome because, maybe they don't agree on the calendar or certain aspects or topics of things. But regardless of that, we still all need each other. And we all agree about 90% of everything. It's that small 10% that people will try to divide over. And it can be either out of fear or out of control, whatever it may be, whatever issue, various reasons. But thank you, brother.
Absolutely. Yeah. The thing about when the Father calls someone to shepherd or to lead a group or to be an elder or anything like that, the hardest thing sometimes is presenting the truth when that it's not going to go over very well. And but I think that's I think there's a testing that has been taking place across the board. And, I believe I was always testing the hearts of who he's put in those positions of authority or the positions of leading. And it's not to be taken lightly either, because at the end of the day, I had two of the guys who used to be my elders who moved on to their other group they formed. They were not bashing me, but they were kind of getting on to me about, because I did a teaching a long time ago, like 4 years ago, about when a day begins, and wasn't, again, pushing it on anybody. I was just like, hey, man, let's look at some stuff. And it's like this. If you do evening to evening, God bless you. You do morning to morning, bless you. If you, whatever, it's like, if that's where you are and you're honoring the Father with all your heart, man, do your thing. And but they were like, why'd you even bring this up? And why did you do this? Because every week I ask the Father, what is it you want me to teach on? What is it that you want me to share? I go to my Heavenly Father for this information, for what He wants me to. If He says, this is what I want you to talk on, and believe me, I didn't want to talk on it at first. I was like, I already know. It's going to get backlash, and it did. And certain people were like, oh, we just can't get behind that, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I never told you you had to do what I'm just saying, hey, here's some information. Something for you to go and be a Berean and study it out for yourself. But the thing I think I've learned, Jeremy, I think you have also, and a lot of other people, is everyone processes things differently. And maybe, and you know what, it's probably good that those who can't handle that probably do go somewhere else for a season and allow the Holy Spirit to work in their lives, as He should be working in all of our lives. And at some point, if it brings that back around, then that's awesome. Just like you said, some people left, some people come back for one reason or another. And so that's that part too, where we got to give them grace to move on and just, and be okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that has been the case. I've seen it many times where people will just be in disagreement with you. And then a month, a week, maybe even a year later, they come back and they'll be like, wow, I tested it out, read through scriptures, and I saw it too. So yeah, sometimes it's just planting that seed. And we're known by our fruits. So that's really the most important part, is our fruit. Not about being right or wrong, or, these sensitive topics, like when does a day begin, the calendar itself, all of that, they can turn into heated topics. But like you said, I don't push it on anybody. There's several posts I've made, even on Facebook. I'm just like, hey, if you guys are interested in learning some of the things that me and my fellowship have found, check this out. And I'll get people on there, calling me names, telling me, I'm of the devil and things like that. All kinds of stuff, but I've never forced it on anybody. I'm just like, hey, look, I've shared what I found so you can test it out. I didn't share so you can come and, bash me and tell me how much I don't know about scripture. It's actually kind of revealing about yourself personally when you say these things. But regardless, yeah, I don't force it on anybody. And, I don't hate on others because, well, they don't see that Saturday is not always the Sabbath. I'm not going to bash and trash somebody because they observe a Saturday only Sabbath. Same thing with the lunar people. Do I agree with these people? No. Doesn't mean I'm going to bash them, though. Kick them down the curb and be like, no, get out of here. You're not saved.
Right.
Yeah. That's things we should not be doing.
Yeah, that's on a side note. That's been one of my things that over the years that I've feel like I'm trying to help people to see they'll say certain things or salvation issues. I'm like, I don't think this is, salvational issue. I think this is, we just have a difference of opinion and we're doing the best we can to kind of go through the muddy waters and, and hopefully seeking the Ruach and giving us wisdom, and all that stuff. And
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to cover a bit of Lashon Hara, what it is, what it can entail, because, well, not a lot of people really teach about it. So not a lot of people really understand and know. And like I said, when I was watching that brother's playlist, I was like, wow, I did not realize that could be Lashon Hara. And yeah, so we are all still learning, really. And it is up to us to make sure that seed is planted on fertile soil. Because if we go in, with the club swinging, how's that saying? You catch more flies with honey. So we can't go in swinging baseball bats and expect people to stand there and take hits. We got to do it like Messiah did. He approached the woman at the well very gently. She took accountability for her sins, and he said, hey, go and sin no more. He didn't, when she turned and walked away, he didn't go and boot her in the back. Oh, none of that. So, yeah, we just got to be the same. Awesome, Jermaine. There's our Psalms and Wisdom of Sirach reading for today as well. Which, speaking of, are you ready there, sister?
Oh, yeah, I am ready, but I don't want to interrupt you guys. We're on a good chat. So I just thought I'd put that there so people could turn to their version. Yeah, if you want to keep talking, that's fine. I'm just ready whenever you are.
Awesome. Good to know. Yeah. So yeah, just a very important topic. Not a lot of people realize Lashon Hara or Lashon HaKodesh, which is, uplifting speech. Upbuilding speech, the speech we're supposed to have. And like I said, we're all still learning together. We all still need each other. And for that very reason, because we honestly don't know the exact time we're in, that day could come, and it will come as a thief in the night. And if we're not on some act right, we're going to be tossed in that lake of fire. And how do we act right? Well, we follow the word of Yahuah, what it says in there. Yeah, I think.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, bro.
I just had one more thing I want to say real quick because my grandboys are getting all worked up again, so it's gonna get loud again here in just a second. Hold on a minute, Tobias. Hold on a minute. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm sorry.
No worries, brother. And see, Brother Kelly, never heard of Lashon Hara before today. So yeah, just very important stuff to, self-reflect on, most importantly. And then, we study on this information, learn what it is. That way, not only can we discern this behavior in ourselves, but we see it in others as well. And then, we can come to them lovingly and say, hey, did you realize, or, just in any way not to bash or trash people or make them feel bad or be a stumbling block.
All right. I'm back. Real quick. I wanted to say this, that how important it is for the body of believers to love one another, to be there for one another, to help take care of one another. I think and I'm not, I might, forgive me if I misquote this, but I think it's in Ezekiel, but I'm not 100% sure. But, or somewhere, maybe it's Jeremiah. It talks about Sodom and Gomorrah, the main reason why they were destroyed. Yes, they had a lot of weird stuff going on. But when you read that passage, and if one of you guys know offhand, please let me know. I think it's Jeremiah or Ezekiel, but it basically says that their destruction became because they had and didn't give to the needy amongst them, like the widows and the orphans and those who are in need. That there was something about that. Yeah, they were doing all the sexual sins and all the other stupid stuff they were doing, but it was like their final judgment came because they were not taking care of those in need. And how much does this body beat each other up? That's the part that breaks my heart every time I see. I'm on so many different threads on Facebook, and I have probably 1,500, 1,700 people who are in the Messianic walk that are on there, and different groups and stuff, and it's gotten better over the years, but you still see that venom come out. You still see, I mean, people dropping. The part that blows my mind is people on there dropping F-bombs and using really foul language and claiming to be believers in our Messiah. I'm like, you're not even speaking anywhere near like our Messiah would speak. Just like what you're talking about earlier, Jeremy, how we handle things and handle like the Messiah does. If you get on there and you start dropping, a bunch of profanity, it's like you don't need to be on there, in my opinion. Maybe you need to be ministered to. Maybe there's something going on in your life and you just need to back up and take a break for a minute. But that's something this body needs to understand. This body is so fractured that and I don't mean that there's a crippling part to this where I've seen people out of the sake of fellowship will forsake doing what is right or put that over the word or over what is proper, and that's not a good balance. But when we're in the balance of the word that we do have, and we're walking in that, and the Torah is about life, and so we need to be promoters of life, and that's like what you're talking about, the speech that we use and not tearing people down, but we need to be thinking about how we can actually lift one another up also. Because the Bible says the tongue can either bring life or break bones. And so do you want to be out? I don't personally want to be that person that's out there crushing people with my words. I want to help you. I want to help guide you or do whatever it is the Father's called me to do and be in my lane for this body and be there for the body. There's times of correction. Yes. There's times for everything. But that's something that I wish our body could understand. Jeremy, you said a minute ago, is that the body needs itself more than it realizes. But until people can get past their pride, they can get past their own way of looking at things and whatever else it is, and the way that they handle situations, and the way they talk to one another, and the way they treat one another, and everything else, it's just going to stay. There's going to be a part of this is always fragmented. And it's sad, but I know that was just on my heart. I wanted to share that even Sodom and Gomorrah, their judgment came because they weren't taking care of the needy. And the other stuff, yes, that there's judgment on the sexual sin and all the stuff happening also. But that final blow of the fire falling from heaven was because, hey, you've basically become useless now. In my opinion, you've become useless, and your sin, your sin has actually reached the heavens. And so now judgment's going to take place. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say, and I appreciate you guys letting me have some time.
Yeah, no, thank you, brother. Beautifully said. And we do all need each other more than we realize. If it's just like we spoke about earlier, we can speak life or we can speak death, even on ourselves. And we just have to learn to overcome that. And when we know better, we do better. And yeah, there's just so much infighting because of these small little differences in opinion. And it really divides the body a whole lot. And there are those cases where people are forsaking the truth for unity. And it's compromise is what it is. We can't compromise like that. There are tough subjects that are really hard to talk about. I know we've touched on quite a few of them here, personally. And even doing so, we still don't all agree in this fellowship about 100% of everything. Even on being on the same calendar and everything, we still have small differences in opinions. But we don't let that separate us. We just let it make us stronger. And we look into things a lot deeper as well. And I think questions and, being able to have that, what is it? It was said earlier, the challenges is what it is. Like, hey, yeah, I see that, but what about this? Well, someone may have not have heard it, this different point of view or whatever it may be. And instead of, immediately trashing somebody like, oh, that's what you think? How stupid, how foolish. We should, if it can be backed up with scripture, we should definitely be looking into it deeper. That's what I've learned. Like I said, I was one of those who, was a Torah terrorist. I was like, you have to do it this way specifically, or, you're not saved. Well, how do I know I'm the one doing it right? What if I'm the one doing it wrong? We have to consider all that too. And yeah, about the profanity, the cussing, the F-bombs and things like that. Like, yeah, if you're cussing like a pirate, you're dropping bombs every sentence. That's really it's our tongues showing us what's on the inside of us. Now, if we're overcoming all that, because all of us grew up in Babylon, every single one of us knows what words we're talking about. We've used these words. So we've all had to overcome them using them. Of course, not everybody's perfect. They slip out every now and then. That's not something to condemn somebody over. So yeah, there's just too many, in the body itself in general is what I'm speaking of. There's just too much pointing at splinters when people have logs in their eyes, or there's just too much, maybe I should say not enough love is what it is going around, and understanding. But yes, anyways, very important topic, very deep topic. And it does go along with these, controversial topics too, because there's a lot of those. And if somebody brings it up, let's not bash or trash them. Let's just walk it through scriptures. But anyways, I know everyone's excited to hear Jermaine read 100%. But yeah, I think I'm done with that for now. So if you're ready to read, Sister Jermaine, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't been able to listen to a lot of this morning, so I can't wait to go back and hear over everything that was said, because I know it's really important. We've all got things to repent for and move forward and guard our tongues and our hearts. So yeah. So I'm reading from Wisdom of Sirach. Sorry, no, I'm not. Not straight up. I'm reading from Psalms, from the Lexham English Septuagint. Now I did put in chat the wrong one at first, but it's 41 and 42 of mine, and then 42 and 43 of the regular versions. And this would be cool sung, because you'll all know the song, but I'm too shy to sing, so here we go. For the end, for understanding by the sons of Korah. The way the deer yearns after the springs of waters, my soul yearns after you, O Aliyam. My soul thirsts for the living Aliyam. How long will I be present and be seen before the face of Aliyam? My tears became food day and night, while they spoke to me each day, where is your Aliyam? I remembered these things, and I poured out my soul in me, that I would go in the place of the wonderful tent unto the house of Aliyam, in a voice of great joy and of a sound of thanksgiving from those celebrating. Why are you deeply grieved, O soul, and why do you trouble me? I hoped in Aliyam, for I will give thanks to him. My Aliyam is the deliverance of my face. My soul was troubled within myself. On account of this, I will remember you. from the land of Jordan and Hermon, from the small mountain. Deep calls upon deep in a voice of your waterfalls. All your swells and your waves went through upon me. By the day, Yahuah commands his mercy, and by night he will make it visible. Beside me is a prayer to the Aliyam of my life. I will say to Aliyam, you are my helper. Why did you forget me? Why do I go around looking sullen while my enemy afflicts me? When my bones were crushed, the ones who were afflicted me approached me, reproached me, and they said to me each day, where is your Aliyam? Why are you deeply grieved, O soul, and why do you trouble me? Hope in Aliyam, for I will give thanks to him. My Aliyam is the salvation of my face. Oh yeah, sorry, that's my cat. You can hear Kitty.
It's awesome.
So, Psalm 42. Consider me, O Aliyam, and judge my cause from nations that are not holy. Kodesh, that are not Kodesh. Rescue me from the unjust person and the treacherous one. For you are my strength, O Aliyam. Why will you reject me? And why do I go around looking sullen when my enemy afflicts me? Send forth your light and your truth. They guided me and led me into your Kodesh mountain and into your tent, and I will enter to the altar of Aliyam, to the Aliyam who makes my cheerful youth. I will give thanks to you, O Yahuah my Aliyam, with the lyre. Why are you deeply grieved, O soul, and why do you trouble me? I hoped in Aliyam, because I will give thanks to him. My Aliyam is the salvation of my face. I think I'll just do the next one as well and get another step forward, because those two were a little, like they were shorter than usual. So I'll just do 43, which will be your 44. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. For the end, a psalm by the sons of Korah for understanding. O Aliyam, with our ears we heard. Our fathers reported to us the work that you performed in their days, in the ancient days. Your hand utterly destroyed the nations, and you planted them. You afflicted the peoples, and you threw them out, for they did not inherit the land with their sword, and their arm did not save them. But your right hand and your arm and the light of your face, because you are well pleased with them. You are my king and my Aliyam, who commands the salvation of Jacob. In you we will push our enemies, and in your name we will disdain those who rise up against us. For I will not hope in my bow, and my sword will not save me. In Aliyam we will give praise the whole day, and in your name we will give thanks for eternity. But now you rejected us and put us to shame, and you will not go out among our forces. You turned us backwards from our enemies. The ones who hate us were taking spoils for themselves. You gave us as sheep for eating, and among the nations you scattered us. You sold your people without price, and there was no abundance in their outcry. You have set us as a reproach to our neighbours, a scorn and derision to those around me. You have set us for a byword among the nations, a wagging of the head among the peoples. The whole day my humiliation is before me, and the disgrace of my face conceals me from the voice of the one reproaching and babbling, from the face of the enemy and the one persecuting. All these things came upon us, and he did not forget you. We did not go wrong in your covenant. Sorry, my cat is getting really loud and purring now, and it's making me just get distracted. Our heart did not withdraw backwards, but you turned our paths from your way. For you made us low in the place of ill treatment and covered us in the shadow of death. If we had forgotten the name of our Aliyah, and if we had spread out our hands to a foreign Aliyah, foreign God, would not God seek out these things? For he knows the secret things of the heart. For on account of you, we are being killed the whole day. We are reckoned as sheep of slaughter. Awake, why do you sleep, O Yahuah? Rise up and do not reject us in the end. Why do you turn your face and forget our poverty and our affliction? For our soul is made low to the dust. Our stomach clings to the earth. Stand up, O Yahuah. Help us and redeem us on account of your name.
Love it.
Okay, that was the end of that one. Sorry, which one was I doing in the Sirach?
And I love how these readings always connect to, well, everything we've been speaking about too. It's always about turning, following Yahuah, going back to Yahuah. And what Katrina said here in chat, you know, sometimes we have to have a word with ourselves, like, have you forgotten who your father is? It was great.
Just having a drink. So I think I did the wrong numbers in the chat again, but it's Wisdom of Sirach 15 and 16. Yeah. And I've got scribbles all over this one. So it must be good. I mean, they're all good, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just extra good.
Okay. 15. The one who fears Yahuah will do it, and the one who grasps the law will take hold of her, and she will meet him like a mother, and she will welcome him like a wife of virginity. She will feed him the bread of understanding and give him the water of wisdom to drink. He will be supported by her, and he will not wobble, and he will be restrained by her and will not be disgraced. And she will exalt him above his neighbours, and she will open his mouth in the midst of the assembly, gladness and a crown of rejoicing, and an eternal name he will inherit. Foolish people will never lay hold of her, and sinful men will never see her. She is far from arrogance, and lying men will never remember her. Praise is not beautiful in the mouth of a sinner, because it was not sent from Yahuah. For praise will be proclaimed in wisdom, and Yahuah will prosper it. Do not say, I turned away on account of Yahuah, for you shall not do that which he hates. Do not say, he led me astray, for he has no need of a sinful man. Yahuah hated every abomination, and it is not beloved to those who fear him. He made humanity from the beginning. He left him in the hand of his counsel. If you want, you will observe the commandments and to perform a faithfulness of goodwill. He has set fire and water before you. You shall stretch out your hand to wherever you want. Life and death is before humans, and whichever pleases him will be given to him. For the wisdom of Yahuah is great. He is mighty in dominance, and he sees everything, and his eyes are upon those who fear him, and he will recognize all of a person's work. And he has commanded that no one act profanely, and he gave no liberty for anyone to sin. So that was 15. And now 16. Do not desire a multitude of useless children, or make merry over ungodly sons. If they multiply, do not make merry over them, unless the fear of Yahuah is with them. Do not have trust in their life, and do not hold on to their place, for one is better than 1,000, and to die childless than to have ungodly children. For a city will be united from one wise person, but a tribe of lawless people will be desolated. I have seen many things such as this with my eyes, and my ear has heard things more powerful than these. In an assembly of sinners a fire will be kindled, and anger will burn in a resistant nation. He did not make atonement concerning the ancient giants, who turned away in their might. He did not spare concerning Lot's exile. Those whom he loathed on account of their arrogance, he showed no mercy to a nation of destruction, to those who were taken away in their sins, and so to 600,000 foot soldiers who gathered together in their hardness of heart. Even if there is one stiff-necked person, this will be amazing if he will go unpunished. For mercy and anger are with him, the master of atonements and the one who pours out anger. According to his great mercy, so also his rebuke is great. He will judge a man according to his works. The sinner will not flee with the spoils, and the patience of the godly will not come far behind. He will make a place for all mercy. Each will find according to his works. Do not say, I will be hidden from Yahuah. Will anyone remember me from on high? I will never be remembered among a great people. For what is my soul in the immeasurable creation? Look, the heavens and Eliam's heavens of heavens, the deep and the earth will be shaken at his visitation. The mountains and the foundations of the earth together shake with trembling when he looks at them, and no heart will think upon them, and who will ponder his ways? And there is a tempest which no person will see. And most of his works are in hidden places. Who will announce works of righteousness? Or who will endure? For the covenant is far away. The one who is lessened in his heart thinks these things, and a foolish and deceived man thinks stupid things. Listen, my child, and learn understanding, and pay attention to my words in your heart. I will reveal instruction with a weight, and I announce understanding with precision. In the judgment of Yahuah are his works from the beginning, and from the making of them he divided their parts. He arranged his works for eternity, and their offices for their generations. They do not hunger or grow weary, and they did not desist from their works. Each one did not afflict his neighbor, and until eternity they will not resist his saying. And after these things Yahuah looked upon the earth and filled it with his good things. He covered its face with the soul of every animal, and they shall return into it. The end.
I love it. And
That was a bit long.
I like especially at the end, talking about all the animals. Kind of goes with what we were talking about every creature has a chance to turn and repent, follow Yahuah, and right there goes the animals even. So it's really beautiful, and it gives a lot of hope, really. I love it. Barak Yahuah.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And yeah, thank you for reading, sister. Really enjoy it.
Yeah, no worries.
And they always seem to, line up right with the topic that we're going over. That's all Yahuah right there, 100%.
Yeah, that's been really good. It's not every time, but every now and then it's like, oh, whoa, didn't we just read that, or didn't we just talk about that?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it is because Psalms and Sirach does cover that, plethora of topics, but at the same time, it's all the Ruach as well. There is no coincidence. And was that from the Septuagint, Sirach?
Yeah, always.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so Septuagint. The Lexem, yeah. Which I would recommend over the Brentons, but there are, for the most part, they're pretty much the same. Some things are worded a bit differently here and there between the two, but I like the Lexem.
The Brentons seems a bit more King Jimmy sounding.
Yeah.
I think. And more worded like King James.
King Jimmy, yeah. King James. Yeah, no, it's because it is filtered through like the King James and all that. So whereas the Lexicon is more to the original. I have heard of, well, of course I've heard of the Alexandrian Septuagint, which is the one that was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one. Is that one available in hard copy?
I'm sure you could probably find it, no doubt.
Okay.
It was one. There was a guy. We watched a video about him. It was a brother, and he was going over the differences, and he was recommending the Alexandrian Septuagint, and that's the one found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and that's the one. Oh, go ahead. No,
I was just gonna say, I wonder if it has all of the chapters of Enoch, because this one is missing the calendar part.
Yeah, and I have looked into that a bit, and what I have heard and seen is because it's called the Astronomical Book of Enoch, whereas you can kind of see that distinction in the Dead Sea Scrolls too, actually, because there's the Book of Enoch, and it has all of Enoch except for the calendar part, and then there's the Astronomical Book of Enoch, which includes all the rest of it. So I think yeah, well, that's what they call it, astronomical. It's the Mazzaroth part of the Book of Enoch, all written by Enoch, of course, but it may not be in the Septuagints because, well, they separated them like that, and of course they, lost the astronomical part of the Book of Enoch, well, because they want to push their moon calendar.
Ever so conveniently. I think it's the most important part, really. I mean, there's a lot of everything's important, but you're just pulling out his whole appointed times. Like point blank. Like you're just pulling out the appointed times. Let's just say it for what it is.
No, really, I agree 100%. That's exactly what it is. got rid of his appointed times because they wanted their Babylonian ones.
Yeah. Dear
And
me.
yeah, like a lot of people don't understand. They just want to toss out the Book of Enoch and the Apocryphal books and Jubilees and just say, they were removed for a reason. If Yahuah wanted them there, he would have kept them there. It's like, well, he did. And if you actually look into it, they were removed for a reason, to hide Yahusha Mashiach, to hide the calendar, and to hide, prophecy about Yahusha and all of that. So that's the reason why they were removed, not because, Yahuah didn't want them there. This is why we can find them now, because Yahuah did want them there. But
I'm a bit suspicious.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm a bit suspicious of them taking it from the Septuagint, because the Septuagint does read differently in some places. So there could be some real hidden gems in that, and we can't seem to find it anyway. I have looked and looked, and I just think that there's some important information that has actually been removed that is just in your face.
I agree.
In the calendar. Yeah.
What better place than to hide it right in plain sight? Really?
Mm.
That's what we've discovered here. It's hidden. It's all hidden like right in plain sight, and they make a mockery of Yahuah in front of our faces, especially with the Gregorian calendar itself. So, no doubt, something right in front of everyone's face. But until we see it, we're not going to see it.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. That's how we came to find the calendar, is because it was right in front of our face. And then we researched more into it, studied it out, and we saw, like, wow, there it is. And now we see it. Wait, I think that is one of the videos, Sister Natalie. Wow, I can't believe you found that. That's way up there. That is one of the videos, though. A good video.
When I'm on a mission, I'm on a mission.
Right, apparently so. See, that's what your piece of the puzzle is, and making images. Very important stuff.
But not the graven images.
Yeah, no, not graven images. No. But wow, that was way back there. That's awesome you found that. But there was another one more recently. I forget which video we watched it in, which fellowship. But he was going over basically some of the same stuff, the differences between the Septuagint and Masoretic, and he was really advocating for the Dead Sea Scrolls as well. He even mentioned Cave 7. Not a lot of people know about Cave 7. That's where they found New Testament fragments and Septuagint fragments. They like to hide that because they don't want you to make that connection between the Dead Sea Scrolls and the New Testament. But you know what's awesome? I made that connection, and I have it in my write-up. You could study it out for yourself as well. Yeah, actually, Victor made a video about that as well. There it is. I forgot about that. Wow. Natalie's on it. So I wouldn't. Are you worshiping that at all? Because that would be a graven image. So graven image is something you carve, make out of stone, whatever, and then you bow down and worship to it. Like just having a picture, I would not say it's a graven image. And of course, there are pictures and images that we do not want, but there's some factors that you have to consider just to, call it a graven image. Puzzle Box Fellowship. Shabbat Shalom, Agudi. Yeah, really graven images have a lot to do with bowing down and worshiping to whatever it is. It can also do with, the esoteric symbolism that they also show, all over the place. The one eyes, the triangles, the things like that. Definitely enjoy that, sister. Yeah, no problem, brother. And yeah, back to Cave 7. So yeah, if you don't know about Cave 7, I highly, highly recommend it's Bill Cooper's book. It's in our fellowship library somewhere. I know I have it in there. I also have it on my article, on my write-up. It's in the sources for where I go over Cave 7. But what it is, so the cave number 7, it's not talked about. It's not mentioned. You won't really find it anywhere unless you actually go and search for it. But it's a cave in the Dead Sea Scrolls where they found New Testament fragments and Septuagint fragments. And quite a few books of the New Testament were found in there. So not the whole books, but fragments thereof. The reason it's only fragments is because, well, it was discovered that those who are in charge over there literally blew up the cave. They blew it up to hide this evidence. So the only thing remaining was these little fragments. And Bill Cooper actually goes over that in his book of the evidence of that. And he has other, scholars and things like that, verifying and confirming everything he's saying as well. And of course, these are things they definitely do not want to, be made known to the public, because then what would happen is, well, they connect the Dead Sea Scrolls to the New Testament and then see all the connections that, many of us here made, I myself have made when studying it out. And when you see, well, look, Yahusha, he went to Egypt. Why did he go to Egypt when he was young, his family? Well, because the whole land of Onias was there. They had a temple to Yahuah, who were the sons of Zadok there in Egypt at that very time. So that's where Yahusha went, learned from the sons of Zadok there, the true priesthood. Then when he came back, he went to the Qumran community, or Bethabara, which is the wilderness, which is where Qumran is. The Dead Sea Scroll caves are right on the edge of the Jordan. And there's an ancient map, the ancient Madaba map. It's the oldest known, map of that whole area there. Not just, Israel, but basically all the Middle East. And you'll see Bethabara and all that, Qumran, that's right where Yochanan the Immerser immersed Yahusha himself. So he was a leader in the community who immersed Yahusha, who then became part of that community and taught them. So it's really profane and very deep when you look into the true history of the sons of Zadok, rather than the nonsense fed to us like, oh, they were just a bunch of, crazy vegans in the desert practicing witchcraft.
Yeah, they were the Essenes.
Yeah, they were the Essenes. Yeah, the Essenes were crazy vegans in the desert practicing witchcraft.
Yeah.
The sons of Zadok were not.
That is correct, brother. That is correct.
And I think it's...
go
ahead,
ahead.
brother.
Go
quick,
ahead.
I was just going to say, it's because the scholars make that connection. And then you have the people like Ken Johnson and others who push it. Yeah, they were the Essenes. They were the Essenes. No, they weren't. They were completely different sects. But go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I was going to say, the connections that that you get when you start understanding who that community is and who they were and what they were there for. And again, like I agree with you, the connection there between the Messiah and John. And to me, the New Testament, there's parts of the New Testament that all of a sudden it's like you just, I don't know, man. It's like the picture just got brighter, got more detailed. It got more, it's like, oh, this is making more sense now. And, and just my personal studies in it. And, I don't know if I'm correct in this or not. And I'm open for, correction on this. But, with the community rules, they had 3 years. And I talked about this in one of my teachings a few weeks ago. The community rules there was you had to walk with them for 3 years. If Messiah's ministry was 3 years long, I mean, I know that's debated whether it was 3 years long or not. When we get through the book of John, it says, and he went to that community, and that community, literally, then they say, we believe you, not because of your miracles, but because of the witness of John. It's like that community now said, you've been with us, we've observed you, you've walked with us, we've seen you do, ever since your ministry started, we're like observing you and watching you. Even John says at one point when he's in prison, he's like, hey, can you go ask him if he's the one, or if or are we to expect another? Because within their prophecy, they thought there possibly could be two messiahs, a Ben David and the Ben Yosef. And he's like, nope, I'm the one. Go ahead and let John know I am, and I use that term very loosely. I am the one. And, so again, when you see that, and they says, right before his crucifixion, that community says, we now believe in you because of the witness of John. Not just because you did miracles, but because of the witness that was taking place. We've been watching you. And now that you've walked with this out for 3 years, it's almost like that community rule they had was like that 3-year period before, you were accepted. You look at the life of Paul. Paul alludes to the fact that he was in a 3-year period with these people of that area, and that they're going to watch you and they're going to observe you and make sure that you're legit and that you're, you're very purposeful in what you're doing, and which is a good thing. I think it's great. That's the fruit thing you talked about earlier. It's like, a tree at the first 3 years belong to the Heavenly Father. By the 4th year, it's an offering giving unto the Father. And by the 5th year, it says that they're able to eat from your fruit. And so there's a progress here that I think the people of the priests and other people of Qumran, they were keeping that. I think that was part of their teaching was, hey, the first 3 years, we're gonna observe that fruit. We're not going to eat from it. We're just going to observe it. And then that 4th year unto the Father. And then, by the 5th year, and others can partake of that fruit. But, they've suppressed this to the point where from the Christian side, unfortunately, you do have a lot of other Christian brothers out there who are right on the cusp. John Peck and a lot of those guys from that side are they're all over it. The calendar of Yah, but they keep calling it the Essenes, and then people on our side of the walk, I've heard people say, oh, those were the Essenes, and they were weird, and we're just going to stay away from that. So it lends to discrediting that entire group of people because of a misunderstanding of labeling them something that they were not. And so, when we're looking into these matters and we're walking it out, and we're reading the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we're reading from the Septuagint, and we're reading the Apocrypha, and we're looking at these, and all of a sudden you start seeing all the dots connecting. My prayer is that from our Christian brothers and sisters to our brothers in the Torah observant walk, that more of them would have their eyes open to see the truth. And we've been just lied to for so long and just brainwashed into thinking that if it doesn't come from the 66 alone, then the rest of us is junk, and God didn't want us to have it in there. And if He did, like you said, Jeremy, if they did want it in there, then He would have revealed it to us. Well, guess what? He has revealed it, and people are still trying to suppress it because you're going to have to give an answer if you're on this side of the line, so to speak. If you're in the Torah observant community, there's people who are following Judaism full blown that I think some of them don't want to see it because it would be a paradigm shift they're not ready for. And definitely those who are in that, what we call the brother of Judah side, that they don't want this out. They don't want this information out because then they're going to have to give an account for what they're doing and why they do what they do. And, I've said this before, but Rachel Elior, in her speeches, has talked about this, and she's from there. She's a very influential voice over there, and it lends to, we got to keep this stuff covered up. We're going to blow up cave number 7. We can't let people see that what was happening in this community. As long as we can make one side believe they were just crazy Essenes and the other side just believe whatever, then we'll suppress that truth. But here's the thing: our Heavenly Father, at the end of the day, I know that if He wanted to pull that lid completely off of it right now, He would. But I think it's in the mercy and grace and His timing and His revealing and getting to the hearts of people and those who have as I've always said, the ears to hear and a heart to receive what the Spirit is saying. And it's not easy all the time, but it's not about me. It's not about my pride. It's not about what I think is right. And I've said this to many people over here in my fellowship. It's like, I just want to know the Father's truth. That's it. Well, if I'm wrong, man, about something. At the end of the day, I just want to know what His truth is so I can walk in it. And if we can just set aside that pride and have that mentality, man, this walk would explode big time. And I think we'd see more people coming into the kingdom. That we'd see more proper unity with the brothers and sisters and all that. But I agree with you that once you start seeing the connections in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it just opens up the Word so much more.
Yeah, beautifully said. I agree 100%. And it really does open up like a deeper understanding is what it is. And, Paul, we see Paul 3 years with that community, the exact amount of time needed to become part of that community. He was on the road to Damascus. What did they call Bethabara? They also called it Damascus. Like the whole general area was Damascus. So Paul was on the road to Qumran, where Yahusha, came to him. Then he stopped, turned, and followed the way. Became a part of the community. After 3 years, he even writes about it. And then it's even plausible for Yahusha. If his ministry was 3 years, it would line up perfectly. I know that that's a debate as well. I lean towards myself that it was 1 year, but it would even work for that because, well, they were expecting Yahusha. And they did have, so that's where this comes from even nowadays in modern Judaism. They believe, there's 2 messiahs, Ben David and Ben Yosef. They don't realize it's the same one. He's both of them. He's the suffering servant and the conquering king. This is what they were speaking about in the Dead Sea Scrolls as well, when they talk about the Messiah from Aharon and the Messiah from David. They knew, they may have thought it was 2. I don't think so. I think they knew it was the same one. And that's when he came and he proved, like, yeah, that's me. And Yohanan or John, them asking, or him giving the, like the okay, like, yeah, this guy's good. That shows he was a leader of the community as well. Like, if all these people trusted his decision, like, he was definitely in a leadership position. So, no, very good points. Very, very beautifully said as well.
I appreciate
And
that,
yeah,
bro. I had a question about it. Do you think John could have been a priest or a type in the priesthood at all? Or
yeah, because his father was. He was actually,
yeah,
his father came from the line of, what was it? Elisheba? No, one of those names. But his father came from that line, so I believe he was passing that priesthood off to Yahusha, not for the earthly priesthood. He was passing it off to him because now it goes from the Levitical to the Melchizedek. That's what I
amen.
believe.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, it's really profound how deep it goes, and when you look into the history of all these things, you can see why there's that misconception and why Judaism thinks there's two messiahs, and even some of Christianity thinks that because, well, they believe those are God's chosen people over there, so just listen to everything they say. Well, discernment is very much from that
That's
as well. I know you know.
I
I
got
know
I
you
gotta
know
be
about
honest with
discernment.
you. That is the more than calendar, more than when a day begins, more than anything else. That is the toughest conversation to have in a room with anybody. 'Cause that's another thing that the people have been brainwashed into thinking is that because they will make the statement, well, we just want the reason why we'll keep doing the Hallels, we want to be in step with Brother Judah. But I'm like, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but if once you realize what that calendar is and where it came from, I think when you start coming to understand of going all the way back to the Maccabean time and the usurping of the proper priesthood and how the Sadducees, the Pharisees, all this started coming into power and everything started shifting from there. And you wonder why there was a 400-year period. They say that the Father didn't speak. Well, he's still speaking. They just weren't listening. They were not in the proper place to hear what the Spirit was saying. And so that's why I tell people about the Dead Sea Scrolls. So look, they have prophecies written down. Abba didn't stop speaking for 400 years. He didn't abandon all of humanity. That part of humanity was actually abandoning the Father. And so,
Exactly.
So anyway, I'm losing my track of my own brain right now, but but that's a hard discussion to have though because people say, well, I want to be, I'm like, but the Bible was very specific that, it's like, I don't know, man, it's to put it into words. Once you start understanding what this is, how can I follow it? Just because they're following, that means they're still in error about this. So what good is it if I'm following them in error? Am I not supposed to be a reflection of the Messiah? And not in an arrogant way, not in a I'm better than you, not that I know everything, but am I not supposed to be that mirror of Messiah for our what we call our brothers on that side, so that they can see that, be convicted of some things, and hopefully draw them to the Messiah. But if I'm doing the exact same thing that you're doing, then I don't know where that benefits. You know what I mean? That's like if my brother is an alcoholic, I'm going to go to the bar with him afternoon just for the sake of it, and we're both going to get hammered. Am I really helping my brother to step away from that bar, to step away from what he's doing wrong? Because now if we're both doing the same thing, then what? I mean, I don't know. I hope I'm conveying what my thoughts are here, but there's a certain point where you have to draw a line and go, you know what? Whether you're Khazarian or whatever you are, but whatever you're claiming to be, I know that we're all technically brothers and sisters in the Messiah. But I can't blindly follow what you're doing if it's contrary to the word. And that's where I think we all have to draw that line. It's like, I love you, but not to the point of following you unto death. Revelation is very clear. Our master said, hey, you need to come out of Babylon, lest you're gonna share in her iniquities, you're gonna share in her punishments. And it's like, yeah, if you want to walk step in step with that, just know that when that punishment comes, it may come to you also.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do say, "Oh, that's Brother Judah over there. How dare you say that?" And they do have a chance to repent if they turn and follow Yahuah. And you're right, we have to be that example because just like Christianity and all that. They say the law is done away with, so that this is one reason why they deny the Messiah, because of the Christian point of view, like, oh, he came to abolish the law and all this and that. And instead of realizing that, well, Messiah is against the Pharisaical additions to the law, which is adding burdens, not the Torah itself. They've been taught their whole lives that, oh, that's in Torah, so, see, he's abolishing the law right there. We have to realize the burdens that were being added by the Pharisaical laws, which stemmed from that usurpation right there at the very beginning in the Maccabees. And it's really remarkable because Maccabees admits to all of it, how it went down, for bribery and for fame, things like that. This is how the Sadducees and the Pharisees came about. This is why there's that confusion that, Sadducees means, Zadokites. And it's like, well, yes, technically, but they are not the sons of Zadok. It may be Zadokites because it was from the second usurping son of Zadok, who had no authority to be a priest at all, usurped the high priesthood. This is why they are called the Sadducees, the Zadokites, but not the sons of Zadok. So they throw so much out there to try to discredit it all. Blowing up caves even. That's the length that they go to. And then the museum that the Dead Sea Scrolls are held in, the Rockefeller Museum, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then they just push this narrative. Oh yeah, there are the Essenes out there, the crazy, magicians out there in the desert. The vegans over there in the desert.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, my interpretation of John the Baptist or John the Immerser for years was, didn't it kind of come all across like he was a crazy dude? The way he dressed and eating honey and locusts and, wearing camel's cloth or whatever, fur. And it's like, it always came across like he was just some crazy dude out in the wilderness kind of running around telling everybody to repent. So, you never really got a good, clear picture of who John is. But when you start understanding who he is, that whole narrative falls to the side.
Yeah, and that's how the church portrays him, as some, crazy dude in the wilderness.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really remarkable, the depth that it goes. And you can just get it by reading scriptures for yourself and, not listening to, Pastor Porkchop preaching on the pulpit over there. Sadducees, they're sad, you see. That's a good one, Dad.
But, in my personal opinion, is that, when the Messiah tells them that, hey, you're of your father the devil, you're the synagogue of Satan, I believe in my heart this system that's out there, it's the same system that's blinding Christianity. It's just a different name. It's all about removing people. Oh, well, on this side the law's been done away with. On this other side, we still practice the law, but it's only for us. There's this great divide right there in between that. I believe it's that whole thing. When I look at the Catholic Church and I look at Judaism, those are the same birds, man. It's the same bird, the same feather. It's just a different title. And they're both leading people away from the Father.
Exactly. They've both been working together since the Seleucid Empire. That's the remarkable thing. Nobody realizes that. Nothing new under the sun. Yeah. And them together, that's what they push. No one can observe the Torah but, Jews. And then Christians are like, oh, okay, that's fine because the Torah is abolished, done away with. And that's a huge gap, one side or the other. And, well, we know that the synagogue of Hasatan, they don't keep the commands, laws, and statutes. They add their own. And that's why they say, Jews make good lawyers, because they're like, well, what commandment? Well, what law? What this? Which one specifically? They want to get into those, picking it apart for every little detail. And that's actually what Yahuah hates. He says that. Like, he does not like that. So they don't realize that Messiah was against all these man-made traditions and added laws that were causing burdens. And then Judaism thinks, he came to do away with all that because, that's what we think is Torah. So he's doing away with it. So they don't believe in him because of that. And it's just this, neither side is the truth. Different wing, same dragon. That's actually what it is.
Yeah, amen.
Both sides working for Hasatan.
Yeah, literally, you talked earlier about things being hidden in plain sight. It's literally hidden. It's right there in front of everybody. You got one that doesn't believe in the Messiah, and the other one that's pushing a false Messiah.
Yeah, and yep, right in front of everyone's face. That's how Satan rolls, really. And yeah, he says, I have not come to abolish the law, but fulfill it. And I like this one because I use this quite often. So they will say, yeah, see right there, he fulfilled the law. It means it's done away with. So my question is, so if we fulfill our marriage vows,